Okay, this is the I think 11th one of these, maybe could be. When I tweeted initially, I wrote 2.21, which is the wrong date or the wrong league timestamp. So we're in 3.21 in a minute, which is Crucible.
Sure.
Not the same. It's so Sanctum just ended. I guess before we really talk about Crucible and dive into all that new fun stuff and speculation and what have you, why don't we briefly just discuss our final thoughts on Sanctum, I guess? Um, just start with Easy because he's on the left on my screen. What were your overall thoughts on Sanctum as a mechanic, or what experience you had with the league? Yada yada yada.
I liked it. I mean, I wound up enjoying it. The first couple runs through it were, difficult, but once you kind of get the groove into it, I mean, it was a really fun mechanic just to kind of speed run. Just really hunting for uniques. It kind of got to where you're just blasting them as quick as you can. So maybe not the way they intended it to be, but no, overall I enjoyed it. I like the currency explosion. I like anything you can get a large amount of stack deck from.
It was a lot of stack decks. This is true. And I was loosely tracking all of our runs, and you ended up doing about 130 sanctums to get the missing piece for you, which was the staff, right?
Yep. Yeah, it took 130 runs to get it. And then yeah, the no hit runs. I got 8 of those, which I think was probably extremely lucky based on kind of what I've heard. Um, and I was able to do 4 of them. So I was able to get 4
Nice,
of the original sins or whatever.
nice, cool beans. Leggy, how about yourself?
Um. Oh, not like this.
Ah, it's really hard for me to evaluate this mechanic because I really enjoyed it. I have to say it was very well balanced. I think when it comes to like rewards and I would say progression, but yeah, I got unlucky again on the stupid ass unique. So I run 300 sanctums over the staff, which is amazing. I love being me,
Mhm.
but overall, I think it was a very enjoyable mechanic. Like with all the interesting uniques, soulbound relics with very interesting stats. The rare one rare stats could have been pretty would have been better if they were a bit more common, right? But
Yeah.
unfortunately, kind of rare. But yeah, overall, I'm looking forward for it to be added to the game once again. I'm getting punished by Alicia over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Also missing my friend Barakov. Rest in peace.
Man down. How about yourself, Manny?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Really, I've definitely enjoyed the league mechanic more than most of the other league mechanics on last year or two. My main gripe of it was it got kind of boring, didn't it? When like once you had a character up and running, they could basically not lose, and you had some good relics. It kind of felt like lab running or something,
It
right?
really reminded me a lot of actually Ultimatum, where it was like this mechanic was kind of challenging like days 1 through 3, but then once you
Yeah, exactly.
knew it like you were doing and your build was
It was
established, it was
amazing early on, though. Like I
yeah,
had so much fun beating the Sanctum on like a scuffed character and like making decisions about which of these things to take and which risk to take, and rewards were great. It was definitely great. Just grinding it out for an end game was not really that exciting to me. The rewards were awesome though. Like hunting for relics to build around or just stacking divines from it was definitely very fun.
you make a good point. So the tension part of the mechanic really was only present for us for a couple days, but that's like very much an us problem because of our proficiency and how much we play. To where I imagine if you didn't have as much time or maybe less overall game knowledge, that tension part, those first couple days, which was arguably the most fun of engaging in the mechanic, probably lasted like a month for some people, which may have been
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's partially by design, right? Because of these
yeah,
the relics that make it easier, and some of them were kind of overpowered. Like the one where you get affliction, was it
inspiration
main
per affliction. Yeah.
inspiration per affliction?
Yeah.
Like one, if you like if you listen to streamers and you know which ones of those are very powerful in meta, and you went for the right relics early on, you had a much easier time than just blindly picking random ones probably.
Yeah, definitely big agree. I think that I agree with like points of everything you all have said, but there was one like I think the league mechanic for trade league was extremely lucrative, obviously because it was a currency printing machine, which tends to be well received by trade league players. It had like a low barrier of entry, which I think was very good, and it was designed in a way that the defenses of your characters outside of the Sanctum effectively didn't matter as much, so you could build a little bit more flexible in the actual Sanctum itself. My biggest gripe with it from a like first experience perspective was just the fact that they announced that not that the items were soulbound, but that were being removed from the game before the league even started. Like, is still like a bummer to me when that happens. This is kind of like my not incentive to collect them, but my willingness to maybe discover new relics was like immediately diminished because I would like to play things as time goes on, you know. So it was a little bit of an annoyance to have that happen. But overall,
It's
I think
really surprising to me.
that they
Really,
did that.
really yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, really surprising to me that maybe not that they did that, but that you felt that way. To be
Well,
honest,
they typically when have they done that previously?
I think no, they've never done it before.
Nope.
But,
Yeah, that's why it's like.
But I had completely different feeling about that. I was like pretty happy that we get experience the powerful things, and we're not never gonna have problems like harvest being reintroduced, and then all this negativity afterwards.
I think I just expected them to be more powerful, to be honest, for how the amount you would receive them, because their power level, I think, was really heavily tied to the invocations, that concept, which if you just didn't get any that were good or usable, you kind of missed the mark, because otherwise the top end of them were like maybe a charge and RMR was like the best case scenario, which to me isn't like remove worthy by the game standards today.
Probably depends how
like
willing you are to like build around what you find instead of sticking to your plan, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't find a single stacking one in 110 Sanctums. So maybe if I found one of those that was also had something else, it'd be like stop what I'm doing to level to make something. But I feel like if we had a way to, I know they were uncraftable, unmodifiable, but if we had a way within Sanctum to modify them, I think it would have been maybe more easy to access higher power level ones and have like that moniker of being removed after this league. Like, this is your big chance to enjoy this really overpowered thing. It seems like it never got to that stage for me.
Yeah, either that or make them a bit more common, to be honest. Like the good mods. So there's a bit less, cumbersome to grind and find nothing. Like I'm a perfect example of that, right?
Yep.
I done like 150 something sanctums without like any very good relics. I had like a couple decent ones, but nothing amazing. And then in last week when I was trying to get that unique that I was missing, I got like 3 insane relics, like absolutely nuts relics. And so one of them was, for example, +1 power charge and lightning damage can freeze. And the second one was deck stacking with element avoidance. And it just came in like 1 or 2 days of like doing 3 sanctums or something. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess so. That's the interesting part. Normally they have the mechanic, if there's like a luck gating behind the player acquiring high power level, it typically is circumvented in the trade league setting by having it be purchasable. But that didn't exist here, which was interesting. They're all account bound even in trade league. So even if you found a cracked one, you couldn't trade it, or if you wanted to buy one, you couldn't. You have to go find your own, which I think probably turned a chunk of players. I mean, it's probably very divisive amongst people who either if you didn't get one, then you didn't enjoy that aspect of it, but if you did, you maybe were more inclined to level in trade league.
I think the missed opportunity was the gold to relic conversion thing. Like it should have been a bit maybe more common of some sort, or like work a bit differently so you could get more of relics.
Yep.
And that would maybe fix it, but like some kind of other mechanic that would filter the bad whatever mods, right?
Well, Sanctum's not coming back, at least this upcoming league. And we know that the uniques aren't being added this league, at least. So both of them will probably come back at some point. So, whatever that happens, maybe there'll be a new variation of Sanctum at the very least. I guess we'll move on to Crucible now. So, Manni said he didn't watch the fucking trailer.
I've watched some of it.
Okay.
I've just been,
You've just been
the last minute.
putting
I've only
Chris's
re-looked into
forehead
it,
on repeat. That's all you've been watching. Yeah. Well, what did everyone think of the trailer for the entire live stream? I guess just off the rip. We'll start with you, Easy.
Yeah, I think it looked really, really good. I'm excited to get into it. I mean, it's like every league reveal is always like Christmas, right? Like it's just, no matter what they do, I feel like it's always draws me in. But this league, love playing bow leagues. This looks like it's like probably one of the best bow leagues ever, right? Because you get these passive trees, and just a little segue too from Sanctum into Crucible, right?
Yep.
We're just talking about the power levels of like these relics that were account bound and going away. Now we have these, skill trees. Obviously it's going to be, tough getting the perfect one, but yeah, you think of some of the power creep that you can have with some of these bows with these skill trees. I think it's going to be a really good bow league. But yeah, overall mechanic seems cool. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it was interesting because especially from what they've shown so far, from my perspective, the power level of the top end of these skill trees to me seems on par, if not higher, with the power level of relics. And we know those are these weapons that are going to have passive trees effectively. Those are going to persist into standard in perpetuity. So it's interesting that was the decision they made versus making them just, be disabled effectively when the league ends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's gonna definitely shake up like number one bows or whatever in like the standard trade league.
And we'll talk a bit after everyone gives their initial thoughts about the crafting process with Crucible, because bows specifically are in a very kind of awkward position when it comes to how you make Crucible things, at least when it comes to crafting. But Legi, what are your thoughts on your first taste of the Crucibleness?
I would say that I haven't been excited like after watching the initial reveal about the league since Legion League. I think I remember being like insanely hyped for Legion, and this league has been great. How how the passive trees, combinations, what we can do with it, like build some cool characters. But yeah, it really boils down to if how those trees are, right? Like it's make or break, and what kind of build's gonna pop out, rear their heads from those combined weapons and stuff like that. But I'm extremely excited.
Yeah, Manni, what about yourself?
Well, I'm pretty happy that we have a mechanic that's going to be in maps and doesn't take us out of maps as much as some of the last ones did.
Yes.
God, yes.
Can't really it's really hard to tell how good the mechanic is going to feel, like how fun it's going to be, like clearing the monsters. Who knows? We're going to have to try it out, right? But I'm very much looking forward to those weapon skill trees. I think it's going to keep us engaged quite long, like hunting your great base to craft on, or if you're using a unique, it's gonna be kind of like Scourge League, where you like repeatedly put that unique in until you get something crazy. Like it's like a nice little side quest. It's gonna keep us engaged for a long time, I think.
It does really seem like Scourge, but fixed, kind of. So hopefully it feels like I'm curious because we just after leaving Sanctum, we had a league where the enemies within the content didn't really drop anything. Compared to something like Harvest, where the point of Harvest, in a way, was to craft gear utilizing the Harvest, but the tangential value came from the actual enemies you killed in Harvest had insane value for MFing. And I'm really curious if in Crucible the actual mobs we're fighting are going to have any sort of IQ, IR scalability, and a secondary value we might get, similar to how Scourge was, where Scourge was about crangling items, but really Scourge was an MF league disguised as that. So yeah, I'm curious if Crucible is going to be anything similar, where it's like, yeah, we can make these passive trees, and the scope of that is kind of narrowed to just, our weapons become cooler, and that makes us stronger, but also these mobs can be juiced the fuck out of, and we could, enjoy that. So
I'm kind of
interesting to
curious
see.
how the risk versus reward thing is gonna pan out, because you can like hold down the button longer to make it harder, right? And get better rewards.
Yeah,
And
scalable difficulty. Yeah.
typically that means like you pretty much just always hold down the button when you're playing softcore, right? You just go
Correct.
max every
Yeah.
time. We'll see how it goes this time. Like maybe it's actually gonna be so hard that we can't do it, or maybe it's gonna be as always. we
Maybe you're
just hold down the
gonna,
button.
cast spell cascade ice wall on yourself and then just fucking spam the button and just encase yourself in a layer of ice as you channel.
Yeah, let me know how that strat goes.
Or you could Valsum. Valsum and skeletons might be a little bit more viable of a meme to say, because that actually surrounds you at the very least. The one kind of annoying thing I did see was the whole concept of you have to have the weapons equipped to actually utilize them in the Crucible, which I saw somebody said somewhere, why not just have it so like there's a dedicated slot like the relic slot you could put weapons in versus, because the issue is that having the
Yeah,
stats to put them
sounds
on.
pretty
Yeah.
awkward.
The stat thing is because you could be leveling, what if I'm playing a build doesn't have Mjolnir stats, but I wanted to
Yeah.
play Mjolnir, so I wanted to, but like, and I have to put on an Astramentus or put on Supreme Ostentation so I can fucking wear the weapon just to Crucible and then take it off. Seems a little clunky, so that plus, obviously we're curious about the actual numerical values of like the experience gain, for example. These are all things I feel like are pretty easily changeable. So I imagine like many leagues before, it might be a little scuffed out the get go, and then after weeks,
Yeah,
1, 2,
and-
3, hopefully they'll work out the kinks.
How long do you expect it would take to like fully unlock the passive tree of, say, a bow? Do you think it's going to be like
Well,
5 maps or like 100
I
maps?
think it's going to be for akin to like Scourge, where it's going to be like a week of playing to max the item, like intense.
Single one.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe less, because like, if they're trying to sell you on like, sell this item for a divine, I mean, it wouldn't be realistic to only be able to sell like, what, like 12 items a league? But I don't know, I'm thinking maybe more like 100 maps, that sounds like a sweet medium.
I think in Scourge League it took us like if you are like really endgame blasting, right? It took I think around like 30, 40 maps. So I would say it would be a bit more because it's less of churning the items to get the good rewards. But I would say like 50, not more, to be honest. I think if they would do something more than 50, like people that played not a lot would just not do it. Like,
Well, they've done some
experience it at
big
all.
numbers, because even like during Harvest League, Tageto Shabi took 100 maps flat. So they're not afraid to like make these big numbers, at least for like just engaging with the content.
We kind of have to like differentiate, right? Because there's like fully upgrading the weapon, like fully unlocking everything, and there's
the
fully
fifth
revealing
tier.
everything just
Yeah,
to like,
yeah.
see.
I was
what
referring to
is
getting
actually
to
on
like
there.
the 5th tier of
Oh, I see.
note, yeah. But I guess
Like
the
just
reveal part.
unveiling it, like checking what's on there, and then you can toss it out if it's bad. That should be relatively quick, hopefully.
So that
Hopefully.
is good to talk about the next point, which is there's this currently in not just solo self but realistically people who are trying to craft that don't have infinite money in Trade League. Fracturing is a key component to a lot of crafting for difficult items, especially for bows, because almost always you're gonna want to like fracture +2 arrows or tier 1 attack speed on a claw, yada yada yada. This adds another layer of kind of like checking that I'm not sure exactly at what point in the process you would do it, because there's basically a couple schools of thought on this from what I've seen so far. You could get your I-86, spine bow, pop it in a Crucible, see if it has a good tree. If not, drop it, move on. That's one way you could do it if you wanted to. But if you're trying to play on fracturing, the fracturing part is like the most intense, part of it. So you say you fracture +2 arrows, you check if your tree's no good. It seems like you're allowed to effectively use the Crucible recombinator system to combine a good tree and your potentially shit tree as many times as you want, and keep rolling the 50-50 combination till eventually your fractured good bow now has a pretty decent tree. But that process could be like pulling teeth, potentially. So I'm interested to see where the actual checking of the tree and working in the tree slots in versus actually crafting your weapon.
I
Definitely
think
gonna
it really depends on the availability of the geode, right?
Yep.
So like if they are kind of common, let's say what Chris said, it's like 1 in 10 maps. I think that's was the number that he thrown at us, or maybe like even more common. Then I think your way of structuring first and then trying to melt stuff together to fix it, it's probably would be the way. But like my first impression was like, first we check, then we combine, and then we fracture one before or something like that. Then so yeah, there's a lot of layers, but it's I think mostly about the availability of the the melter itself, right?
It was interesting because this league was kind of softly pitched as a crafting league, but really it has nothing to do with crafting in a way. I mean, it doesn't help the crafting like no part of Crucible from what we've seen so
It's
far.
an extra layer, right?
Yeah,
On top of crafting.
it's more work ultimately to make a nicer item. But even then, I don't even know if it's really crafting because you check if you have a tree. If it's shit, you toss it, or if it's like has half a goodness, you're gonna want to combine it with another one. That seems to be the depth of the process as
I
far
feel like
as
there's a lot
actually.
of parallels to Scourge in that regard. Like just tossing in an item for a couple maps and see what potential it has, and then go again
Sure.
until you hit something crazy, and then you run it for like whatever maps it takes to finish it.
Yep. This is
It's gonna be kind of annoying to level gems for like the first like week or so. Like if you're like flipping in and out items, and that kind of goes back to that point of maybe having a separate slot for Crucible would be nice.
yes. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's beyond me that they didn't reveal it as such. Like there you have to equip the weapon to even interact with the Crucible. I think that's so insanely stupid. I cannot believe that that's the what we have right now. At least hopefully they're gonna do something about it.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. They did showcase a couple uniques, so there's gonna be They said 10 plus uniques this league. We've so far seen 6. So we could briefly go over the ones we've seen
Yeah,
at least in our
Before
thoughts.
we
Yeah.
before we go to the uniques, do you see the screenshot I just posted? Like on the announcement page, they showed us one of these forges of the Titan, right?
Yep.
Where we can combine items, and there's a map mod on it that says monsters have a chance to drop a magmatic ore. Is it like have they explained what that means in any way? Am I just clueless, or is it just a mystery we have to solve later?
I think it's
Um,
the passenger's lens for like the
Yeah.
you just drop it so you can like level them up with the item. So it's kind of same as the lens we had from
Faceter's
Harvest.
lens. Yeah.
Oh, it's like
Yeah,
a burst of XP
Yeah.
for
yeah,
the
Yeah.
skill tree.
something like that.
Tradable also, they said. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And
Just
also we
I
don't
didn't see everything.
we don't really know if there could be a boss in this mechanic. There could be other layers. They seemed a bit reluctant to go into too much depth, which makes me think there's probably something. Um, then again, I thought that in Kalandra, and that wasn't that wasn't the case either. So who knows? the
We're
Yeah.
finally gonna get the bird boss this time around, right?
we get the bird boss in Sanctum. What do you mean?
Well,
She had wings.
kinda.
Okay, well, I don't know what birds you have in the Eastern Bloc where you live, but my birds have fucking wings in America. The Stormseeker gloves. Did you get a chance to check those bad boys out? Leeching, shock.
Yeah, those are pretty interesting. They scream trickster, right? Because we have ES overleach on a trickster. So you're perma shock immune essentially from those.
I don't. Is there
And if you're,
any amount of mana overleach that exists currently?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Don't think so now.
But if you're like playing an attack build and you're spamming your attack, you're probably leeching, at least while you're like attacking, you're leeching constantly.
Do you feel that the value of unaffected that these offer is consistent enough in uptime to have it somehow be worked into like a build for you? Because you can't exactly do. If you had a build that was self-shocking, you want to make yourself unaffected by shock. The uptime is obviously paired with how much you're ES leeching, so attacking. Versus why wouldn't you, like, would it be better to just get another form of unaffected by shock versus the consistency of these?
I mean, on a trickster, I think they're consistent enough. Otherwise, not so sure about it.
It's a pretty big increase effective. I'm assuming it probably tops it at 100% because they're at 87s.
The increased effect, you mean? Yeah, that's honestly huge. Yeah,
Yep.
like it screams Spark Trickster to me, really. But there's already Olgo Mortis, which are in a similar slot.
Yeah.
Like they do a similar thing. They give you a ton of effective elements and a
I
lot of
think
other
for me,
goodies.
it's like one of those uniques that's like middle of the road. Like if you find it like tier 3, tier 4, maybe probably like tier 3, let's say, similar to like Asenav's touch. And like if you find it amazing, you can throw it on the build, and you're gonna feel great. But
Yeah.
it's not gonna be there at your like end game
Yeah,
super
Yeah.
builds
probably gonna be
unless
common.
you corrupt them right.
Agreed. Ancestral Vision, the Jewel. Modifiers to chance to suppress also applies to avoid ailment at 50% of their value. And seems pretty cool if you need help getting ailment avoidance capped. And it has some decks on it.
I think that item is like crazy good.
Yeah.
It's just very powerful item. It goes in line with the jewel rework, right? So
Yep.
I think it's like competing with Storm Shroud.
Do you guys think it's gonna be a global drop,
Um,
or is it gonna be some kind of Crucible unique? It kind of looks Crucible-ish.
That's what I was thinking. Just like the
it's
image of it
Maori.
looks-
Yeah, looks like it's a Karui type totem vibe, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
it would fit perfectly into the global pool. I feel like power-wise, and also like it's flexible enough. You know, they don't want these niche jewels in there, but this is pretty
yeah.
flexible.
I feel like Storm Shot's probably better ultimately, but it still seems very
It
good.
depends. Like if we're talking about, let's say, Deadeye or like some kind of right side
Sure.
tree build, yeah, usually you're kind of missing this like 30 all element avoidance. And
Yeah,
this,
the
this
tree has
item
like
just
what,
fixes that.
55 on the tree basically for
Or you can just
on the
do
right
boots
side.
plus
Yeah.
this and just leave it. So yeah, I think it fixes a lot of problems.
Effectively, it removes the need to get it on a boot or a chest slot for most builds, because that's typically when you'll have access to high avoidance on, which is a little bit awkward, especially because boots you'd like to have more, I'd say on average, offensively geared, especially with things like Tailwind, Elusive, Action Speed, however.
The new Abyss boots. Have you seen
We'll,
those?
we'll get to those. Those
Oh
are
yes.
a
By
lot
the
of
way-
a lot of those niches are pretty cracked. What's up?
They should work with face aggro, right? So maybe
Sure.
maybe this is gonna make someone play face aggro. If they want to go for a 150 suppression converted to 75 dodge, they would get 75 suppression from this, right? Sorry, avoid elements from it.
I don't know how dodge would even feel now, after, like compared to just like the suppression kind of tankier defensive meta. I don't know if I can go back to the days of not taking a hit.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like
consistency feels bad, but
we're just
it can be worth, I think.
we're so used to now having like 50k
Yes.
armor, everything's unaffected and like cap suppression. Going to or running around with 3k life and 1 in 50 maps getting one shot. I don't know if I could handle it.
Secret strat is going back to phase acro with ward bases.
Oh boy,
About that.
top 10 abandoned mechanics.
Damn.
Well, yeah, this is a bit tangential, but they just had all that stuff in the passive tree they added for link things. I'm still so surprised there's been just no support for Ward, like basically at all, ever since it was introduced in Expedition. It was like, yep, there's this thing, and that's about it. We'll see you never. Get global
Expedition
defenses.
League 2, maybe.
Oof, that's a sequel I'd love to see. Next unique is probably going to be one of the, if it works how I'm about to describe how it works, which I think is how it's going to work, could be one of the biggest items for Trade League, which is Elebin's Visage, the helmet. This has stats, a little bit of armor evasion, some IR, which is kind of strange. The whole thing is, though, it can have a Crucible passive tree. The question is, which I don't know if we guys received confirmation on, similar to Anointing, Helmets, or Strangle Gasp, once you give it a passive tree, if you make it rare, does it retain the passive tree? If that's the case, can be pretty spicy to have a helmet that has, obviously in Trade League you can probably craft out with insane stats, and it'll have, an actual passive tree. Curious to see how that actually plays out. What are your guys' thoughts on this helmet?
I mean, how does it even work exactly? Is it going to be a one-hander? Because shield and one-handed weapons have smaller trees, right?
That's a good question. Yeah, also the pool in which they draw from, I believe, might even be different. So I'm not sure if you think it's going to have like a defensive, almost like it can pull from non-offensive weapon-based things, more like defensive things?
Think they said that. I could be
shield
mistaken,
tree.
but I
That's
wanna
what
say
chat's
it's the
saying.
shield
Yeah.
tree. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Which the shield, I mean, you could, yeah, that sounds pretty interesting in general. Like, it really depends, I guess, the top end power level of how strong is the Crucible tree. Is it worth sacrificing a helm slot effectively, with or without making it a rare and then crafting it out to where that's like super cracked?
It could honestly
I
be
love this
very
item.
good.
Yeah.
It really reminds me of the Trial Master helmet.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
In a sense. So I think it's very very good addition to the game. Yeah. Like even if it's not like OP out of the box like 9 out of 10 times, but sometimes you're gonna get something great, and that's super good.
Yeah,
I like it.
definitely seems like a
I mean,
powerful
if there's
trade
gonna
with
be
game.
some kind of boss or mini boss, this is probably what drops from it, right? If there is anything Crucible, it would be like the
looks
perfect boss
boss-like.
drop, right?
Yeah. It stinks of
Because it's so
boss.
random.
Whoever this man is, Elabin Blood Eater. Maybe he's the boss. I'd like it for us to. I mean, looking at the Titans in the picture they've shown us, obviously they're, well, they look like Eminem, but aside from that, they're obviously reminiscent of like, in a way, fighting things like Katava or Act 5 Katava, where he's that
Yeah.
giant statue-looking
Giants.
thing. I think that sort of fight is something we're honestly missing in Path in a lot of places. These kind of more grandiose fights, because typically the bosses we fight are a little bit humanoid in nature, or endgame bosses, and I would feel like we would love to see a huge boss, like a raid boss, almost like something super massive, like twice the size of Katava, where it's a lot about managing your environment.
Yeah.
And I think this could be a really cool opportunity to see something like that. Like I just imagine him, coming in out of the kind of like Ragnaros in WoW when we first fought him, where it's like this large man comes out of the lava. You have to like the arena is cracked, and you have to kind of manage the floor and avoiding mechanics, and that seems like a really cool opportunity to have something like that potentially.
That would fit the the Titan
Sure, yeah.
narrative.
And then like
So,
it's the
would be great.
classic Dark Souls thing. You defeat the boss and he goes underneath the lava and then he comes up again, wearing armor this time. You're like, oh shit, it's a second health bar. I'd like to see a
I don't
couple
remember
things
what
like that.
ARPG. I think it was Wolcen, where like I played through and they have this kind of boss in like every act. There's like a giant boss everywhere. Other games do this a lot more than PoE for sure.
In the going off topic, but in the past two trailer, it did seem like a lot of the um, act bosses did seem more large monster, big scary thing versus like this is a dude, with a sword and a shield you're fighting. I like that. I definitely like that direction. I feel like it's gonna because that sort of thing also like I feel like from a PR perspective, if I saw a trailer and I saw someone fighting a giant demonic creature versus like I don't know, just like a dude, I would be more
True.
inclined to
Dude,
see
yeah.
the thing. Seems cooler. Yeah, easy. What do you think about the helmet?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like every other slot, right? It's gonna be contested. But I mean, I do think it's cool. I think it'd be nice once we have like, data mine what all a passive Crucible passive tree can roll.
Good.
I like that as rarity on there. Makes me happy.
Yeah, it's a little bit of rarity. Next helmet is very cool looking. I like how it looks like a Minotaur horn thing. The blood price. This one is like super interesting. Because it has something that's never existed before, which is this really kind of insane mechanic of reserving nearby enemies' life, meaning they have 8% effective less life. So if you're playing a Slayer,
It's like reverse
you have,
culling.
you have 28% call basically. Um, Obviously, there's no way this would stack because if it did, you would walk in with 5 animate guardians and 5 people, and the boss would be dead. But I'm curious if it does work on things like animate guardian, or if it's a scalable value, or things like that, or if this even is a range. Maybe 8% isn't the top end. Um, Definitely seems interesting.
I mean, with such heavy downsides, I don't see anyone using this outside of Animate Guardian.
You don't see someone maybe who is. There's a lot of builds who just kind of glass cannon their way through Uber Pinnacle bosses.
Yeah, but I mean, this is worse than culling in so many ways. Not only is the value lower, but
Well,
like the
stacks
last
with
10%
culling,
are
though.
much more dangerous than the first 10%.
It's not
Like,
mutually exclusive, though. You could have this and still call.
sure.
Also, what's to say
But like,
you can't snapshot its ability?
I'm sure you get
Effectively.
more damage from a helmet than 8%.
Sure. That's the big
And
argument, right?
for
Is
like
that
glass cannon guys, and for like real bossing, right, where you actually still fight the boss. The first 8% of his life, he doesn't even use most of his abilities, right?
yeah,
It's just free.
yeah. I don't think it has.
My hot take.
Yeah. Oh, hot take.
Right?
Hot take.
Hot take.
Get ready.
This is gonna be a T0, same as Soul Taker, and it's only gonna be his own animated guardian login.
Well, Soul Taker is as strong as Mage Blood. That's what Chris told me. So you're wrong.
Same
Hot
as
take.
Bina's kitchen knife.
Yeah.
I know it.
Not the kitchen knife. Yeah, they're. I'm curious if we're gonna get a rarity mix-up because their perspective on rarity versus like power level is pretty fucking cooked. I mean, when it comes to like oftentimes this thing is XYZ rare. I mean, in a weird way, the Sanctum staff is a good example of this. Like a ridiculously hard to acquire unique in a vacuum percentage-wise simply isn't as good as almost any other the other three Sanctum uniques that we're dropping. So it's like I'm curious the rarity of a lot of these things versus how strong they are.
It's so weird to me, especially after they rebalanced like the rarities of the uniques like a couple leagues ago, right? When they
Yeah.
made them rare, but like most of the uniques made sense where they dropped. Maybe except like Ascendancy Digital Touch. That's a big outlier for me, but let's digress. But like making those kind of, I would say shitty uniques. I don't want to.
Oh my god, no!
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Chris.
Now it's not a PG podcast anymore. You fucking idiot.
I mean, this unique is like unique enough that I think it's totally has a place. You know.
Yeah.
Like this is cool. Opens up.
It's okay.
New opportunity.
Wow. The brothers are fighting.
Definitely has a slot in my tab.
That is ultimately yes. It has a place in all of our hearts.
Someone in chat mentioned enemies would never be full life when you have this equipped. And aren't there some mechanics where we have like extra bonuses against enemies that are on full life or not on full life? So maybe at some point we get some. I don't think there's anything that would be rewarding right now, but maybe they add something like enemies that are not full life deal less damage or something, right?
So, interesting. This is a unique that might have opportunities now, but might scale better as the game goes on, which kind of nicely leads us to our next unique I want to talk about, which is this bow, which for me is the most exciting unique I've seen so far, because it gets
that one
increased. So it's a level 0 bow, basically. It's a crude bow, right? And it gets bonuses gained from quivers are increased. I'm assuming this still increases the bonuses gained from implicits on quivers because they're part of the quiver. And there's some insane potential with this item because there are some insane quivers that when you look at like, oh, that's kind of whatever. And you start thinking about quivers and you're like, all right, this is pretty nuts actually for a lot of situations. And even like goofy things like having Craghead, for example, you can get up to reduced like 90% prod speed, or things like rear guard. You can get basically capped block from having this quiver on.
Do we know how high the quiver, the bow scales?
We've seen 2 screenshots of it. One was like 180%. This one's 225. So it could be 250. It could be 300. Who knows? Yeah. Which obviously the higher, the wilder, because again, there's some scenarios that like, so you can get skirmish can give up to 3 totems, I guess, in the top end, or there's a lot of things that actually, or not to mention just the flat damage. You can get things like the Harbinger quivers have tons of flat damage. You have the scaling of Poised Prison. Void Fletcher I don't think the Void Shot is scalable, but the max Void count would be scalable.
Oh, you think so? I was actually just looking at that because it says 5 maximum void charges. So would
that being
mean like,
also the gaining will probably be worse, I guess, if that gets scaled up. So you probably be gaining them slower. It really depends. There's a lot of like things to think about because a lot of these have non-scalable values. But Soul Strike giving 200 something % faster ES recharge and like 350 flat. That's been chat saying 6 Link Maloney's. Yeah, there could be. I mean, I'm not sure if that's scalable. We'll see, but
isn't it just like straight up good for Tornado Shot too? Because
sure,
you wouldn't have to fracture a +2 bow anymore. You could just have a +1 quiver that has a bunch of flat on it, and basically have flat and +2 on your bow as well that way.
Or like a +1 bow, and you like or corrupt like +1 chain on it. Is that like 3 chains?
Yeah,
3
100%. It should work. Yeah, that's why I think this is like, and also because it's again, It's basically a level 1 unique. If it is
Yeah.
as common as other level
Will
1
Rain.
uniques, then it could be just Valbait fishing for, like, that +1 arrow or whatever.
I mean, that'd be insane.
It
I
is
would expect this one to be very rare.
And just for context, you mentioned really rare. There are uniques that are very early on that are extremely rare. So, like Abrath hooves, Parandus boots. Some of them are just, like basically tier 1 rarity, but also um, level 1. It does seem like, to me, this is like such a, we always talk about like unique uniques, but this is like the most open potential for something cool. Or even like, I mean, as we look at it, but like Black Gleam over converting Fizz to fire. Like, there's a lot of fun things that can be done with this.
I really hope it scales like 300%. That would be so cool.
300% is also interesting specifically because A, it's divine
Yeah.
bait, which I think is healthy for the game to have something like that. And then B, obviously, if you get to 300%, that means you can be tripling values or double tripling values for things on quivers. So things like +1 totem or +1 chain can get to that next break point.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would be
That's
like
exactly my
so
point.
fun.
Like,
I mean, quadruple,
there's,
right?
there's
It's
so
already-
many unique
Yes.
things that way.
Yeah. And it at least it has 1.4 attack speed. It could have been 1.2, so it's not the fastest thing, but could have been worse, I guess. Any other thoughts about the quiver? Bow quiver, whatever it's called. Widow Hail.
I mean, I'm just thinking how good it is. Like,
Yeah.
it has so much potential, right?
Yeah.
It's a great unique. Like, by design, I mean, it's design, but it's a great unique, but it could be like a really strong chase item too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not just. I'm looking at unique quivers on screen now, but there's no shortage of non-unique quivers that you could do with influenced variations and what have you. So
Yeah, like you get a like a hunter or shaper quiver, like 10% movement speed, then you're like 300.
honestly, we just left the era of caster bows. You could realistically have a quiver that has 48 tri-res, and then you're tripling that, and you got fucking res cap from your quiver now on a summoner or a caster or
there's a-
something.
Mage blood who?
Yeah.
There's a lot of like bow builds that don't really need anything specific on their bow, really, right? They
Sure.
get flat damage or something from other sources, some kind of stacking, and they only need like a fast base, which is fast enough for, I think. And then
Yep.
Quiver has tons of bonuses on it.
Yeah, this thing is. Also, I just like how it looks. It's pretty. Little purple bow, little flowers. I know how much Legi likes his flowers. Little flower boy. Moving on. Tainted Pact.
You're a flower.
Thank you. I do smell great. I smell like apple juice right now. Coral Amulet.
Yeah.
It has a bunch of fucking leech, and dot heals you instead while leeching for chaos damage. Interesting. It's a lot of leech. We just
Could
were
be
just
some
getting
tech. Is there like a boss that deals insane chaos dot? I guess all his mean, kind of.
yeah, for all
Just
those
swap this in and
all
stand in
all
it,
those hunter farmers out there, rise up.
I mean, you would never bother with in softcore probably, but maybe swap this thing in so you're immune to hunter basically.
I mean, what came out like
Self-poison,
first
yeah,
impression?
was the
Yeah, self-poison.
golden rule
Exactly,
builds.
right?
Yep.
It's like
True.
unless you get one shot, you are immortal. So I think that item could be game breaking.
Mm-hmm.
Would have to play Slayer though, right, for the overleech?
No way.
No, I don't know if you have to.
There's other ways.
Yeah, you could.
Cortex Glove
Divine
finally
Flesh.
useful.
Serpents, yeah, maybe. Especially because which is I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's a good question. How would you maintain it? I guess versus Slayer probably was the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, I think memes aside, Slayer would be the choice because of the longer leech, right?
Yep.
It would be much easier to maintain. I think more other ascendancies would struggle in a lot of like situations.
Struggle or strangle.
That said, like even if you're doing bossing, like if you cannot get one shot and it's like still attacking a boss, then you're immortal in a lot of situations unless the boss goes immune.
On the other hand, though, like if you're playing a Slayer and you're overleeching, aren't you kind of like
Already in that
insta full
position
anyway,
yeah.
right? Do you even need more heal?
I mean, that's the magnitude of heal is like so huge,
Yeah,
right? Like this can like heal you for millions, right?
Yeah, true.
In this
Maybe
economy?
literally, yeah.
Wow.
Immortal if you're not get one shot.
I like it. Interesting. And also, it's
I think
in reference of Scourge, right? The flavor text, because it talks about buy debt. Oh no, that was from not from Scourge. Yeah, that was from Scourge, because that's the person who, the Sanctum lady is
Yeah,
yelling about.
it's the demon guy.
Yep. Is it the angel one?
I was gonna
Or
say
no?
art-wise, it looks like it would be from Crucible, but who knows?
Could be. It looks like a corruption seed from Elden Ring. I don't know. The Dung Eater it looks interesting. Looking to see the amulet slot's a hard one though. That's like a really spicy spot. I'm always leery when
And I
things
like
talk
again
about
how
amulet
unique
slot.
it is, though.
Yes, yeah.
Like pretty much everything we looked at today had something actually unique about it, not just kind of like a good rare. I like the design.
Yeah. It does seem spicy.
Only getting uniques.
Unique
Well
uniques are
done.
the best
So,
uniques.
I'm really happy.
Speaking of unique uniques, we could talk about
Oh no,
what? What are you worried about? Your big baby.
you're gonna pull out the
I'm gonna pull
the
out.
link
Yeah.
unique.
No. I wasn't even gonna mention it. Yeah, that wasn't good. I can pull it up. Where the fuck even is it? Is it on Reddit
I
still?
think it's on Twitter.
Is this it? Oh, there we go. I
Oh no.
didn't think this was an April Fool's joke, and I'm still not even sure if it is. Because I forgot that holiday even existed, first off, but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't even seem to me like the fact that it wasn't an obvious. For me, it wasn't obvious. This was not real, but it still might be real. I'm not sure because they just added all that link stuff on the tree, so it was like, yeah, this just seems real to me. Um, I don't know.
I mean, it's not real to me. I'll vendor it anyway.
If you vendor 59 more, you get a body armor. At that point, you're making money.
I mean, it could be also fully linked, right?
Someone in chat said, I thought the momentum video was the April Fool's joke. Same, friend. Same. Well, if it exists, it exists. Maybe they'll make it as rare as Calandra's Touch. Who knows? It's got a...
Maybe.
Breach. Well, I guess we'll start with... So Breach and Abyss got an update. We have...
It's honestly really exciting.
It is.
Favorite parts about the patch.
I did feel like... I love the Breach that they're getting updates. They're making them more streamlined. I love the uniques are getting buffed. I like what they're doing with breach stones to a degree. It's a little upsetting that there's no low-level breach stones because you can't level with them anymore, like early on, but that's fine. What I thought was like super strange was when Chris was talking about Breach and Abyss as if they were like bad and unused mechanics when they're like actively some of the top mechanics for mapping and experiencing, which was...
Yeah, they weren't really used for their rewards, they were used for spawning a lot of monsters.
Mobs, yeah.
He was talking about them like it was torment. He was like, yeah, these unused old mechanics in the closet. I'm like, people are actively pushing the highest experience of mapping per hour because of Breach and Abyss. And it's like, what the fuck? But they got mechanically updated in a variety of ways. I'm not gonna go too deep into that because we don't really know how it feels, I guess, fully compared to how it was before. But one thing we know just off of numerical changes is every single unique got buffed, I think, or changed, which seems fine. Some of them got buffed and changed that were already good, so it was interesting. I think like Green Nightmare got buffed still, right? And that was
from like 5 to 10% or something.
Yeah, and then the amount of suppression you got increased also, which is like, okay.
Well, they didn't get strictly buffed, right? They lost their charge generation on kill. All of them.
Did they all lose all of it? I thought
I
some
think
of them.
so. Yeah, I think the charges are gone.
I retract my statement then. Yeah, they're dead.
It's not a strict buff, but yeah, they're definitely more interesting now, or more useful now.
Yeah, I wonder what it's gonna do to like skin farming, right?
Yeah, they didn't mention skin at all, did they?
Do you think they would change the probability of them? Because they used to be,
I don't
I think 10%.
think they would, because they didn't mention it, and they did mention that for Katarina, which we'll get to later on, but there was no mention of revising boss rates. I don't know. It's possible. It is possible. They like to shift numbers around. The United in Dream and Severed in Sleep are changed for Poison SRS, which I played a lot last league. But the build is definitely not dead. It just is different. We'll get to, I mean, the Abyss belt was buffed, so it's you just have to get more. The chance to poison was increased from jewels, and you just have to run. I think all this means is you have to run 1 extra jewel. That's really what it boils down to. You have to use the Abyss belt. You gotta use 1 extra jewel. I think that's basically it.
I like that they changed, like from I'm understanding this at least, they moved a lot of the splinter drops from the bosses back to the monsters themselves. Because if you found breach for splinters recently, like 90% of your splinters come from the boss, right? You might as well ignore everything else. Because you find like a boss and he drops, I think it's at least 40, because he spawns like two and then
bosses,
he cubes them.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes it's like a full stone, so now it's like more about actually getting swamped by monsters again and killing the monsters and not just hunting the bosses. Should be a lot more fun, I think, to farm splinters now.
There should be less splinters dropping also, but stones are higher value, so...
The bridge stones have higher value, right? Because the uniques got buffed and they're always level 82 or 81 now.
Yeah. It also just means if they don't, like you said, if they don't buff the drop rate of uniques, though, there's gonna be less uniques on average, but they are higher level, so...
Yeah, but I'd rather do a few bridge stones that are actually, like, challenging and rewarding than spamming these level 70 bridge stones until I'm asleep, you know? You can find so many of those.
I did enjoy the leveling, though. The second you hit maps, you just go run 20 bridge stones, and then you're just in red maps, like, instantly.
Yeah, I guess
like
you run, like, a unique map twice now. Same thing, right?
Yep. The one that really stood out for me, for just the breach ones, is the Surrender. Has a fuck ton of life on block now. 500 life on block. Feels tanky. That feels like pretty beefy. It feels like old block
the
builds.
gladiator buff that we're asking for, right?
Kind of. I mean, I guess, yeah, but you're gonna see it on like necromancers walking around. But yes, that's a lot of life on block. That's, I mean, realistically, that's roughly 10% life on block for your average build. Like, that's a lot.
A very good item. I agree. I really like it.
Plus, it has more armor. I already had a lot of armor. You lost the 1500 when you blocked recently, but the flat's higher, so ultimately. But yeah.
I love the Tollful one.
Yeah, the toll one's
70
crazy.
cold damage per power charge. Like, holy.
Yeah, that's an insane amount.
That's some Winter Orb Occultist right there.
You can get pretty comfortably. Does it still have +1 charge? Or doesn't have +1 charge, right? No.
No, it never had +1 charge, all right?
I mean, I was thinking the replica. No, didn't have it.
You could you run like one of these and one void battery too. You could combine them. No
Sure,
problem.
yeah. That's a crazy amount of flat.
Increased damage and one for flat damage.
It's like having 3 Blizzard Crowns strapped to your right wand. Yeah.
I think the Abyss changes look pretty cool. Like, you know, just knowing that if it's like a depth, it's a lich, and that you can get Stygian Vise above ground now. I don't know. It's like a minor thing, but I really like that change.
In concept, yeah, I agree. It just does depend on how they, again, balance the rates. Because, like, if it was like a 1 in 3 to get a depth and it was a 1 in 3 to get a whatever boss, is it going to be equivocal to where when the amount of bosses you find, is it more, is it less? I mean, the power level of this again is higher, so I just don't want it to be like Abyss League where I'm like looking 800 maps to find one boss would feel bad. So
kind of like a modernization of especially Abyss.
So it's definitely a good way to describe it, like a revamping of the
in 2023. You don't want to do an extra side zone just to find a spire that drops 1 belt base, just brought it up to speed.
Yep.
They also buffed the bosses by a lot, right? Made them more challenging when they do appear, and they only appear in like red maps now.
I wonder if the timer's still there.
Less boring.
Yeah. Because that was always a little, not like an annoyance, but if you died in the middle of a boss fight, since there's no cast in this portal because it's instant, so you can't draw a portal in there. It was a little bit awkward sometimes to get back in, maybe get back in time. So I'm curious if that's been elongated as well. If the boss fights are supposed to be more challenging, you still have just 2 minutes to kill the boss.
True.
Be interesting.
A lot of these breach uniques are really strong now.
Yeah.
I still want to say on the Abyss topic, I really hope that like when the Abyss, obviously they're guaranteed, I think 4 parts of the Abyss now, like the 4 holes, let's say.
Yep.
So and then they spawn spires instead. I really hope that the spires don't like bug out randomly like the holes. So maybe that was also one of the reasons that they wanted to revamp it. So hopefully, like when Abyss ends in like very corner, it's actually spawns
the
monsters. That would be amazing.
terrain detection for Abyss was always questionable.
Yeah.
It had very strange interactions with indoor maps that had tight corridors. So I'm curious as well how it's going to feel.
I mean, these spires could be pretty amazing for magic finding if they spawn a lot of rares.
Yeah. Always looking to juice, right? Can't stop juicing. They also.
I was very surprised
Yep.
about the Shroud of the Lightless change.
Yeah.
It got heavily changed. There used to be this easy 6 link, right? That you only have to 5 link for a 6 link. That was like the identity of it. Now it's very different.
It has.
It's an Abyss stacking item again.
Yeah, it's 3 sockets, so it's more akin to almost the replica version, where it's half of it. It's basically
It's
not
replica,
usable as
true.
a core 6 link. I guess
It's actually very similar to the replica now. Like you lose a few Abyss sockets, but you get bonuses per jewel that you use.
It almost feels like the replica one has become a little bit antiquated by comparison, because you're obviously is extra 3 Abyss sockets versus the whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it has life, has mana, still has Ellie Pen. Oh no, yes. No longer has life mana, no longer has Ellie Pen. Now has the life per jewel, mana per jewel, and pen per jewel. That's a global factor, not a supported factor. Yeah, should be interesting. Obviously, these Abyss uniques in Abyss League, it was probably the biggest time initially where you would like see people wearing multiple Abyss uniques at the same time, kind of capitalizing on the synergy of a lot of these stacking jewel things. Granted, jewels then were, super strong compared to jewels now, but interesting. I'm curious because the value of all these things have been cranked up so much, and the emphasis has been on stack jewel, stack jewel, stack jewel. Less if you have this type of jewel. If you have this type of jewel, be interesting to see.
Yeah.
The gloves have 2 random modifiers from a pool of 6, which
You don't
are
know those, right?
no. So it really reminds me of like the there's any amount of uniques that have these things, whether it's like expedition boots or balance of terror jewel we just had. It's gonna probably have a couple super strong things and a couple shitters, and you're gonna wait for the combination of which ones you get. But some of these could be, I imagine
it's still
thematic.
only the attack-based ones, right?
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because it has attack speed cooked in, so it probably is going to be
I'm
attack
guessing
speed
there's
leading.
like free searching and free murderous versions. So
Could
getting
be.
a good
And
combination could be.
I'd imagine most of them are going to be some sort of on hit effect, or maybe like crush on hit, or overwhelm X amount of fizz, something like that.
Yeah,
It's probably going to be the most exciting one for me, and it's honestly the most exciting thing in all of this entire Crucible League patch notes, is Light Poacher got buffed. And Light Poacher is a lot of fun. Was a lot of fun. Was very problematic also, but it was a lot of fun. And for those who don't know, it's a helmet that basically, when you kill shit, you poop out little green ghosts that used to flood the screen with fork and chain, and just basically covered all of the builds clear for free. And they super upped the chance of getting the charges that trigger that ability, and gave you 5% fizz as extra damage per charge. It's not just 5% damage of an element, it's 5% extra damage as of each element, which is even wilder. So I'm really curious what Light Poach is going to feel like for a lot of these fizz casters, like Reap, EK, whatever, just even bow builds. I think you can probably just slap this on any build and it'll feel hopefully really cool. But you can also do a lot of fun things like Power Charge or Hypotherm or Ice Bite on your helmet slot, and your Spirit Charges will give you on kill effects, they'll give you charges, give you Calling Strike, whatever you want. Seems super fun. Do you guys have any experience with Light Poacher back in the day, and what are your thoughts on that?
All the way back in Abyss League.
Back in the day.
So long I forgot most of it.
I never used it like to make like a proper light portrait build. I never was actually good enough at the game to like to make those crazy characters, but it looks really fun. Especially, I think the ghosts, the green projectiles are physical damage, right?
They are a lot. It's
So,
about almost 1,000 physical damage, like per
yeah, so
thing.
it scales like that, and then obviously you can do some shenanigans with like elementalist, stuff like that, and like conversion. I think it's a very exciting unique, and I would expect to see some like crazy builds like a map in.
Yep. The Darkness and Throne belt was also buffed. Was 75 and now it's 50 to 100. This is interesting for a lot of reasons. That a lot of builds had the ability to cap various avoidances and stuff like that from also like CDR and RMR from the increased effect of Darkness, and now you can get up to 100%, basically doubling the values. So you could pretty much put 2 avoid jewels in there and you're capped on certain defensive metrics, which is pretty spicy, I think.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it has to be like 100%, and then
Yeah.
master on the jewel, right? So it's a lot of very specific items, but even like if you can double it up, I think it's a good place to be for the unique. It was always used. That was really surprising to me. I mean, maybe not
really
surprising,
good,
but like interesting.
The I'd say probably the most look forward to of the Abyss uniques is probably the boots by most people. They've got some crazy lines on these boots that are pretty insane.
I mean, an item with 24 global RMR
Yeah.
that has like movement speed, and it's like
Yeah.
good. What the hell, man?
I know.
It's
What is
more than
this?
ashes, dude.
Yeah,
So good.
and it stacks with ashes. Yeah, that's not just more than ashes, but you could use both. So it's like obviously some people were complaining about the removal of the specific aura RMR like reservation sections, and we got back global reservation, but it's on a mana cluster, which is a thing. But like if you just slap these boots on, it's like definitely bypasses any sort of nerfs that may have existed, and this like. I'm not sure if aura stacking is back in the menu per se, but you could probably squeak in close to an extra 25 or 50% aura on a lot of builds now with a lot of these sort of things stacking up. We're getting close to like old RMR numbers between jewels, between these boots, ashes, like we're getting up there. I don't know if they say how many abyss sockets Bubonic Trail can get. I assume it's still
It's
2.
gonna be
should still be 1 to
probably
2.
gonna be 1 to 2, right?
Okay. Yeah. And
I am looking forward to sort of building around with those, or like PUBing with them.
see what you
I mean, the
can
downside of
squeak
having
in.
to use a magic and a unique jewel is kind of harsh
Yeah, it can be.
if you're not already like stacking jewels anyway.
Thankfully, you can still get pretty generic rolls on them post pool change, so you could just kind of pick up mana life, stat, whatever.
Yeah.
And again, you could wear the belt and have the jewels and put the jewels in the belt, and the jewels may have not been that good before. Like again, like the caster ones, and you could just have life, mana, stats, and it's like, all right, well now my belt, has 100 life and 40 all stats, and it's like not as bad, but a mage blood it is not,
You can craft a jewel something like 40 life and 12% multi and like corrupt it, and it's a good jewel, like as a magic jewel, right?
Yeah. I'm
True.
sure we'll find. And also the does the Keystone Master still exist in the tree for the six property ones?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so then you could just camp Abyss for a chunk of the league, and if you're to trade buy one and just fish to get a nice 6 prop one.
I wonder if we're gonna find more or less jewels from farming Abyss now with how it's reworked.
It's a good question. I guess it really depends on
Because
how
a
they
lot of the
balanced
jewels
it.
came from the hordes underground, right? At least a lot of the bases.
The base jewels, yes, not
We
the.
should get less chests now, right? Because we get spires
Yes,
sometimes.
yep,
So
yep.
less corrupted jewels. Because
Less-
the corrupted jewels were only from the chest, or am I wrong right now?
That's correct. Yeah, less base farming. Also, you used to get the +3 eye levels and then fish
Oh, yeah,
+2
that's
from
completely
thing.
gone.
That was the
Because-
the biggest downside I saw was that from, because now it's +1 I think versus +3, which is less. But yeah,
Only
it's-
rares and the Lich will drop 86 stuff then.
yeah, Yeah, which is I guess still fine. I mean, it was maybe a little too easy, arguably. But the emphasis on high level, I still this is like a real tangent, but like it's still kind of bizarre to me that that an eye level 86 item can roll like a tier 12 life regen modifier. I feel like that should have been almost there should be like a minimum, for
There's a chance there
crafting.
will be a lot of bases this league though. Like,
Yeah,
say you want to craft the perfect bow, maybe you're gonna have to like, crucible like 200 bow bases first until you get the perfect tree or something. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's gonna work out, but could be.
I feel like 200 is a understatement. It will be closer to like 500 in my opinion.
11 million.
Might need a
That's
lot
it.
of bases, yeah.
The
To be fair, we don't need 86 weapons usually.
no.
For shields and for bows, I think it would be relevant. Otherwise, 86 is usually not necessary.
But at the point in the game where you're ready to try to craft your +2 cracked bow, you're probably already pushing high enough content that it's a moot point, right? Unless you're
86 is still annoying to find, right? You would have to find it from there's only very few sources like some
well,
boss
just
fights
like
and
Uber bossing. I mean, they're gonna have some of them
unique
drop.
maps.
Oh, actually, you're right. Even a lot of those are 85. That's fair. Um,
Or like Uber Cortex. Uber Cortex just craps out 86
True.
bases.
let me just pull a Cortex out of my ass week 1, easy.
Yeah,
Come
yeah,
on.
yeah. And be Uber farmable.
Yeah. And then I just pray to God it doesn't roll avoid ailments with my ailment build. Otherwise, I'm there for 45 minutes.
Speaking of fracturing, have you guys realized there's no Hobby this league around on the map device?
Yeah,
Should we not consider fracturing a thing anymore?
yeah, it's gonna be. I'm just gonna go back to IDing, baby. Yeah, I don't know. Just not gonna
Gonna be
play.
rough.
We started to kind of talk about that or at the beginning. I think we kind of passed over it just real quick though. Yeah, so like how will we craft like the best bow? Like do you
Well,
just
it's
merge them all
really
together
simple,
and
actually.
then fracture?
You go into your level 1 zone. You pick up your unique bow that gives your quiver 300% effect, and you
Yeah,
slap
yeah,
that
yeah.
on, and that's it. You're done.
Yep, fair.
No, I don't know. It was already not like that's the kind of the bit that's what people are like. Oh, they were talking crafting league. It's like crafting's not, in my opinion, the super healthy position right now as it maybe could be, and it just got worse because again we just lost a chunk of Harbinger and nothing else got better. So crafting these higher tier items will not be easier. I mean, the previous mechanic Sanctum was shitting out crafting currency like left and right, and we just lost that. So I don't know what's going to fill the gap of large currency influx and the fact we don't have access to Harbinger. It's just going to not, I guess, craft things.
Just don't craft things. Use the buffed uniques, right?
That's kind
probably
of
what they
honestly where
want.
it feels like I'm leaning. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm looking forward to having my fucking 8 unique build.
Yeah, it's
Who
pretty
knows?
disheartening. I agree. I really hope they're gonna do something like even remotely, small change to how we make items around the game. But it's literally the same thing. And this is not
They
a
could
crafting
just
league,
add back
I think.
in on harvest reroll suffix prefix for 2,000, and I think that'd be a little bit of a band-aid. I don't think they're making a large change anytime soon. With like everything they've got focused on, they've got ExileCon happening, beta for Path 2 sometime in the next 40 years. I'd imagine they're not top of their priority as of right now.
Maybe they just think it's healthy. That's would be pretty sad.
We are not in the majority demographic of player base, so this is very true. I don't know. I do not know. Any?
A lot of uniques
Yes.
have been buffed at least, so maybe less crafting needs to be done.
Yeah, every
A
breach
lot
and
of these
abyss unique
breach
should
unique and
be.
abyss uniques being
And
powerful.
if you had to, you could just use a lionized bow. It's good enough.
Yeah,
It's
just find it. It's
Yeah.
just a tier 0 unique. Just find it.
just go
I
back
haven't
in your
found one.
ass where that cortex was. Root around,
Yep.
pull out a bow. Or you could do
And
the real Chad play, which is farming the lion card in X6 until the league ends and never seeing the bow. You could do that if you want. Soft
Someone in
nurture.
chat mentioned,
Yeah.
can you remove fractured mods from, like, say you have the perfect bow, right, with the perfect tree,
Mhm.
and then you fail a fracture. Can you get rid of the fracture?
No.
Me and a buddy tested this last night. So what we did was there is a recipe for like the fizz mod, but we were just gonna put like an enchant, right? So he put an enchant on, and when you do that recipe, it removes the enchant. So my guess is it's a brand new item, and it probably would not keep the tree. But I mean, that's still to be
Ah.
tested. But it doesn't keep enchants when you do that, when you remove the fracture. So my guess is it probably would not keep.
If
the
you were
tree.
asking about removing fractures, if you found a bow that you fractured that had it, or that dropped fractured and had a shit tree, can you remove the fracture? The answer is no. I don't think. I don't think there's any way to remove a fracture once it's on an item. That's like just there, right?
Can you
No,
split?
you-
That's a good question too. Can we split our good trees once we have a good tree?
That's true. Well, you could do it with, it's like the fizz. So if you get like a low tier of fizz, and then you do like a granite flask and an augment,
Yeah,
you can upgrade the.
but
fizz tier.
that's going to be a new item though. That's what you're saying. It's a new
Right,
item.
yeah,
idea.
it's going to be a new item. It strips away the enchant, so my guess is it would also strip away the tree.
So I guess you could save the base.
Yeah, but I mean, 86.
At that point, it's
Like you
like
said,
whatever.
once you're at the point of making a +2 bow or whatever, your GG bow, you'll have, infinite.
It does
more or
seem a
less
little
numbers
bit
of
like some
items.
of the minutia of this mechanic may not be fully thought through for the end game of it yet. This might be like week one we'll figure out how Crucible works in the end game. We'll kind of like wait till the players do some of the testing for us. Be like, all right, none of this shit works the way we hoped it would. Like, got it, we'll patch it. That's like, I'm waiting to see that kind of unfold because it feels like a little bit awkward, little clunky process, but they like clunk in the same way. Yeah.
One thing that I heard been mentioned is like when we comes to like combining those items, like if the meta mods work, like as we remember, when Awakenings got introduced to the game, there's a lot of let's say fuckery. Let's call it that way with that, and they didn't fix it for a long time.
PG stream.
I'm just glad that
I'm looking at
influence.
Lighty and just want to
Wow,
square.
just give me a kiss. Mwah. I'm surprised. I'm just happy that it works with influence and synthesized items because they had this fucking hard on for making like mechanics just not work for influence and synthesized items. And I just saw it and I was waiting during the live stream, like, please show me an influence item being used in this Crucible mechanic. Just don't tell me that it's only can be used on vanilla items. And thankfully it can be. I was very spooked out for a second there. The going back to Breach and Abyss for a second, they changed the scarabs in a way that didn't seem the most positive at first glance. These seem
like
worse.
Far worse for magic fun. For stacking.
It seemed way worse, but who knows? They added, was it shadow shaping has a different implicit for them, right, or something? Also,
Now was the it that flat, and I think fortification gave you maps that were enchanted with breach.
Yeah.
Like, this map has up to 5 breaches, and that got nerfed a little. There's a shadow shaping implicit, or a Keurig implicit, that gives +3 breaches. And is it 2 or 3 of this? 2, right?
2, I think?
Three breaches, 2 abysses. But
Okay.
I have a suspicion that they kind of touched it as well.
Yeah, maybe if we keep quiet.
Yeah,
they won't find out.
Kill the VOD.
Kill the VOD, yeah.
Because those maps, like, maps with guaranteed 3 breaches with those buffed breaches would be pretty absurd, right?
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
I mean, that's the best way of getting Harbingers, Harbigens in their maps as well. So fractured orbs, pretty much just a must-have in SF in this league, I think.
Top 10 must-have breaches in your area. The
Cortex next to it.
Right.
Is there
Yeah.
Is there breach or abyss on the map device?
I think
we
one
had
of
them
them.
both.
There was one of the. No, there's only one. I don't remember which one it was.
No, it's neither. No, it's abyss.
Abyss. Yeah, there's no breach
One
though.
abyss for 2 chaos.
God bless though. Honestly, that's like. I was worried because I knew they were. I was figured. Oh, hopefully both of them are on. Well, only one of them's on, which is fine. But I was hoping it's abyss, and thank God they didn't make it like fucking 8 chaos or something wild. Because this is like I'll probably be pumping this. The entirety of the league until I have nice 2 sockets.
I gotta say, trying to make an abyss stacking build, like abyss dual stacking build, sounds kind of tempting for as an SSF project this league.
Yeah, that's where I'm heading. Also, I'm not sure what I even want to use for a skill, but I just want to have abyss uniques. I want to have light pulcher. I want to have that new bow with a cracked quiver. I can't imagine I don't go a bow something like tornado shot or ice shot or there's the new Val skills. So maybe those look pretty cool. The new ice shot Val skills.
Yeah, exactly. iShot sounds pretty tempting. With
Maybe
the
go get
Abyss,
a cracked Triumvirate off of Uber at Ziri, slap an ice shot in there, watch it go ballistic. Could be fun. There's I think this is really over encapsulating what I'm about to say, but there was nothing in this overall patch that had me like up in arms, kind of like the previous patch did, where they did like major nerfs to Uber bossing and even some undocumented changes. Granted, there could be undocumented changes in this patch, obviously, but there's nothing was like super excited me and nothing super upset me, which is kind of makes me feel like it's good if I'm always kind of like a little annoyed and a little excited, That seems like the happy medium. The only thing that maybe was upsetting was
nothing has
like
really upset me either
the
so far.
the slightly underhanded Katarina nerf. I'm not sure why they didn't just say we think the item's too strong, so we're nerfing its drop rate.
I mean, they haven't exactly specified what
They
item,
haven't,
right?
but I could read. I could read between the lines. What else? What else could that mean? Why don't you play devil's advocate, Manny? What else could this mean aside from we're making the item?
No, I'm saying I'm pretty annoyed that they didn't just say what exactly happened.
Okay, yeah.
Like I don't like that they keep it vague like that, because you kind of want to.
It fucks with planning.
Plan
That's for
around,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like you don't know, does the helmet still exist? Is it like a 1% drop now? Or like, can I plan with the helmet or not? Would be nice to have an idea.
Should I ask my best friend Bex, which so I can get a non-answer? Yeah, I mean, I could ask and see what she says, but I don't think I'm gonna get an answer back. I don't think they're gonna say anything. If they would have just said it in here.
Exactly.
Yeah, chat's right. That plus Book of Regression gone basically says to stop farming pre-map content. Full stop. Get out of heists. Get out of foothills. Understood.
Yeah, I'm kind of weird. It's kind of weird that they did it this way instead of just maybe not resetting the heist shop or something instead.
It just seemed it probably was the easiest fix. That's where my mind went.
What if I generally want to de-level for some reason? Like, what if I need a level 40 character and I don't want to re-roll, instead I want to de-level my
it's like the shop change, right? That was the same thing where it's like we've made it so certain shops don't rotate their wares or something as you progress through the game. So it's kind of like they don't want you buying chancing items. They don't want you maybe checking expedition shops at low levels. I know that, especially in SSF, we have like certain low-level expedition strats for Gwenin. Maybe they wanted to not do that.
Right?
You just have to, really, pick a spot. It's a decision that they made. It's one of many. Yeah.
Sorry, one more thing I just remembered about the Breach rework. There's no more upgraded stones, right? And every blessing you find, you can immediately use it to make a flawless stone now.
Which
yes.
Do you guys think it's going to be much easier to find Untold's Vow now?
Well, maybe not on average.
I don't think so.
But in standard, yes.
True.
For those who've never run a flawless stone before, it's not easy. Just to clarify, like
it's very difficult.
The benchmark of not only survivability, but overall clear and the pace you have to keep up is very challenging. And I think we're going to see a little chunk of newbies who are like, "Oh, there's two difficulties. I could do the first one. The second one should be okay to go." And they're like, "Okay, this was not okay to go. I've lost my flawless stone now."
It's honestly not just newbies. Like, it's very easy to get caught off guard how hard these flawless stones are.
Yeah.
Like, if your clear isn't insane or you don't have explosions.
Explosions, really that's what I was going to say, is the big one where if you don't an Ascendancy goes a long way for these things, because that's like, you need some damage. And those rares are chunky, especially if you roll, because you can roll back. Again, the modifiers are randomized in a similar way, or enfeeble or whatever, and you're like, all right, I've been neutered. So imagine playing CSC, you walk in there and you hit enfeeble and enemies have reduced crit damage taken. You're like, all right, well, fuck me, I guess. I'm not sure what the resolution of that is. Maybe the randomized, it almost feels a little bit like the randomized negative modifiers kind of aren't aging as well with the accessibility to the content that we're having them, because things like Cortexes and things like Flawstones aren't the most accessible content. And I feel like as the player, I've already gone through the hurdle of grinding out the entry key, and now it's about whether I can complete the challenge using my skill. But it almost feels like that's been a little bit removed from like the fairness of it. Now it's like, well, now it's not even about my skill. Now it's just about, do I get good RNG on spawning the thing? which feels a little shit. I'm not sure what the resolution is, but it's kind of like you're removing the player's capabilities from the equation a little bit. Because again, it's like Cortex is a more extreme example, where if you're playing an Ignite build and you get 96% to avoid Ignite, it's like, this isn't difficult. This just means this fight's going on for 40 minutes now. Like,
difficult as fuck. What do you mean?
well, it's difficult in a different way, I should say.
You're probably gonna brick it, and then
because the arena's flooded with pools on the ground.
No big loss, right? You just find another one
I don't
eventually.
think- I don't know. I think it's fine. Like, it sucks, but I think it's okay.
This
Like,
is
it
one of
should be
those
like that.
this is one of those problems that are only solved because of how much we play. Where it's, we can just farm out a Cortex. We can just farm another one.
If you don't play much, you probably don't even find a bad.
You don't fucking deserve to play if you don't play this much. You gotta play 12 hours a day, every day. If you
I'm
don't,
saying, like, it's so rare for that to happen.
go play Diablo 1.
Most of those Cortexes or briefs they put in are gonna be totally fine.
Non-Cortex run pansies out there. Can you imagine not having level 100 week 2? Ban them. Ban them all.
I just think that if you're putting, like, uber pinnacle content into your mob divides, then you should, have idea what can happen.
Trash talk
right?
them. Go. Say it. Say their shit. I know you want to. I can feel it.
No,
I can feel it coming out of you.
If you are not ready, don't do the content.
But how do you know you're ready unless you do the content?
Just read it.
Just read it. Okay, understood. I'm going to tweet Chris right now. I'm going to let him know. The game is solved. Reading. Path of Exile hates illiterate people.
I mean,
use third-party website. Learn to read. Understood.
I mean, that's how it is. It's as much as it sucks. It's all the gaming is like that. It's like, yeah, you kind of want to check or like ask someone that has experience it, and this can happen. Well, shit, or
just tell them to sit and spin. That's it.
So do we expect these blessings to be like stupid rare now?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Which also means the breach uniques are actually going to be really hard to get then, right? Want an
That's what
upgraded amulet or something.
Except there's div cards that dropped them, but yeah. I imagine they're not going to be. They're going to be. Well, that's the diff. So the weird thing is, like, they scaled them in a way that almost feels like one socket Abyss uniques is equivocal to like a base breach unique, and then the 2 socket Abyss uniques might be equivocal to like the upgrade breach uniques. As far as like, there's a stage 1 and there's the stage 2 of rarities, but a lot of the Abyss ones, the difference from going from 1 to 2 socket is like min maxing, but the breach uniques are just different uniques. Like, it's a totally different item. So not having the secondary one kind of makes certain things just not work. So
it definitely looks like the blessing is going to be the bottleneck to get these upgrade uniques. Like, you're probably going to get the base unique multiple times, and then you really are hesitant to upgrade because you could make a flawless instead.
That's a good point, actually. So currently, shit breach, like I shouldn't say shit, disrespect the poor uniques, but like the base breach uniques vendor for 3 splinters, right? I'm curious if they've increased the amount of splinters they vendor for in accordance to how I'm trying to give them, give them knowledge
because they would smash it. They would mention that in patch notes, so no, they didn't.
I'm expecting the base uniques to still be pretty common, honestly. Like, they're gonna straight up drop from farming breach.
Could be.
They haven't changed anything about
but blessings can also drop from
There's this
breach.
one note they have increased chance to drop uniques, right? I think they nerfed it down to 50%, if I remember correctly now. But
yeah.
When you have that, you find them pretty frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not the rare ones like amulets, but the base Hower or the weapons that are very common.
They straight up removed the blessing drop, just to clarify. It's the 0.5 chance to drop an additional breach blessing from a rare is now just 20% increased monster density. So the only way you're getting these blessings is from actually running breaches. And the breaches themselves are eye level 80 content that is then upscaled, so
yep.
It won't be
it's probably going to be a bit slower to acquire stones.
Yep.
Because the bosses drop a lot less splinters, and the dropout of blessings in those stones is,
well, to be fair,
reduced,
it might
from 50% to whatever it is now.
I thought it scaled up from normal to prime or pure.
Yeah, it was 50 on a regular one, up to 100 on a pure.
So it's going to be probably 75 then, for splitting the difference, maybe.
Think so?
Well, the difficulty is much higher, closer to pure than it was to regular.
Sure, but since every blessing drops guarantees you a flawless attempt, at this 1 in 100 unique, right? I'm expecting these blessings to drop like 10% of the time now.
You're also assuming that flawless ones haven't been somehow changed.
Well, they
And
would have mentioned that, wouldn't they?
no, not necessarily. Patch notes are not infallible, unfortunately, these days. It's more of a loose suggestion for how the league's going to go.
Mm.
We'll see. I mean, I imagine most of these metrics are going to be shifted based off of the first 2 weeks of the league anyway.
Yeah, probably. I think, yeah, it's a really good point that Manni mentioned. Like the big blessings being, this very valuable currency. If you want to upgrade your skin of the loyal, let's say to skin of the lords, which is like what everyone wants, right?
That one sucks
Yep.
more because that one
Yeah, it
is
sucks.
the blessing gobbler. That's
Yeah, exactly.
here
That's
it
what I
says-
mean. Like,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, go on easy. Sorry.
No. I was just gonna say in the
All right,
patch it
so-
says,
Whatever.
you go, you
Okay,
go, you
know
you.
what?
just make out already,
You
you
go.
two. Jesus.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, as you said, it's a blessing gobbler. Like you need to do, upgrade so many skins to even get one that you want. So
Yep.
it was a really like kind of elegant way of nerfing Skin of the Lords.
Yeah,
I
because
agree.
everyone
Yeah,
used
I
it.
agree. Because Skin of Lords is kind of correct. It's a little definitely think too strong ultimately for how widely
Mhm.
usable it is, especially because of Empower and all that stuff. What do you say, Easy?
I was just gonna say in the patch notes what it says that flawless breach stone bosses no longer drop breach blessing or unupgraded breach uniques, but they have a chance to drop upgraded breach uniques. So you could just get the upgraded breach uniques from the flawless.
It's so
stone.
odd though, right? Like if I'm trying to target, say, upgraded Xof amulet, why wouldn't I just upgrade my Xof amulet with the blessing
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
upgrading the stone and hoping that it drops?
I think it just seems
That's
more like
fair.
a little happy side reward. Like if it happens, it
Yeah,
happens,
but-
and
You never needed it, because if you needed it, you would have just used it, right? So you get something that you don't need every time.
it's
I
true.
think
know my
they
point?
want you to do flawless to get higher XP and your little bow and fractured grasping maze, right?
Well,
That's what they want.
Chat said something that is very true. One of the masteries to say you 15% life, you can get your Skin of the Lords now artificially because of the mastery. So it's
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, nice little buff.
at that point we're gaming. There's a there's a lot of cool things in the Breach Abyss.
But yeah,
I'm looking
definitely
forward to farming it.
expect essentially a huge nerf to skin indirectly because of its rarity now, right?
Yeah.
Can we agree on that?
The council agrees. Official. The vote's in.
Perfect.
Masteries. There are a ton of mastery changes. Some removed, some added, some revised. For me, there's a lot going on. There's lots to unpack here. We could spend 2 hours talking about this alone. But the only one that I want to say offended by, but the removal of the lightning lucky mastery was, kind of a hit. Granted, it was probably too good for how little investment it took. But was there any other masteries that you guys saw that stood out to you as being overtly strong or overtly terrible? If you want to talk about the adrenaline macro meta, we can talk about that also. That's a whole thing in itself. But yeah, so we'll start with you, Easy. Which one did you see that was like, of the ones we saw that were stand out?
I really like the one that said it's not that big of a deal, but the one that says like 15% life whenever you have no life on your chest. I think that's pretty unique.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. It's a great
Yeah.
idea to make
Yeah.
like those body armors usable.
Mm-hmm.
I love that one.
But I mean, overall, to be honest, I haven't done a big deep dive into all the passives, but that's definitely the one that I guess kind of stood out the most to me.
This did come at maybe the partial expense of losing 10% increased life with the reduced recovery rate. Because the one above it, it says you have 10% more life if you have. It says at least 6 life masteries allocated. There are only 6, so.
That's kind of a cool concept. Kind of wish they would have done it for other masteries.
Where
too,
it's like you want to go all in on a one mastery and then you get some big benefit. It is definitely cool. It is
like a set bonus.
Yeah, it is. That's what's good. It's like a set bonus. A couple of them kind of are wonky for the life ones, especially where it's like you count as low life while 5% above what would be low life, and then the full life is 10% above that. So you have this like middle ground of you're kind of whatever. I was kind of hoping there would be like a crossover point where it's like if you picked up both of them, you were like both on full life and on low life at the same time. But that would be like maybe a little OP.
The full life one sounds really good for the support gem, right?
Yes, yeah, I can see that because it works for a lot of things. Like you're saying, melee on full life being the most maybe the most obvious one or whatever. It counts full life.
What other big things are there for that work on full life only?
Yeah, there's a bunch of
And
stuff.
what other things are there? Can you think of anything else that is like?
Oh, there's just so many. I can't think of them. You know, I don't know. There's that one. What is it called? You know, oh, Legi knows it. What was it, Legi?
You mean the chess one or whatever?
Oh yeah,
No,
that
which
one. That
would
one.
work?
That's it.
That one.
That one. Though. Yeah.
But yeah, the one that stood out for me was it wasn't like OP or anything. Like, it was a very neat one. Is the
Chest opening.
No, not this one. The poison and bleed immunity when your helmet is like
Evasion, armor,
evasion, armor, like depending on the balance of the stats. I think this is how the masteries should have been.
That one felt great. So I'll read it just to clarify the wording. It's immune to poison if equipped helmet has higher evasion than armor, and immune to bleeding if the opposite, your armor is higher than evasion. I did kind of wish, and it might be way too overpowered, if they said if they're equal, then you get both. That would have been fun because I think that I really like the concept of like you trying to hyper min-max juggle very like minute stats, kind of like price. What's the leadership's price? The amulet,
yeah,
where it's like, yeah, this is gonna be effort to make work, but if you do, this is the outcome. Immune to poison, immune to bleeding for free is really nice, especially I think poison because you do have the bleed pantheon that kind of takes care of it for the most part.
I think the bleed part is more impactful, honestly. Like, I mean, there's this decent amount of options to like counter the bleed, but like
that's kind of what I meant. There's not a whole lot of immune to poison representation that's just easily accessible. But I would say that bleed is
early
more lethal than poison.
When you chaos res is terrible early league, this sounds great.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of, they added a map mod that has a ton of added chaos.
Oh my god! Don't even start on that, Manni, please.
Yeah, the map mods are
interesting. An occultist.
I don't really. Not that they keep adding silver bullet map mods, but they do feel like they're adding these like targeted hate crime map mods. That I guess the idea is they want us to spend more currency and effort crafting maps, and they're trying to make. This does kind of harken back to old Path, where it's like you would unironically exalt a map to try to hit maze. Like you'd spend effort and time doing a map. It would take 20 minutes, and then you would leave the map. Like, is that the vibe we're going for? In a way, that's kind of the direction they're going. Because
for me, it's like you need chaos res in our game. Please, like have chaos res on your endgame characters. That's what it sounds like to me.
We're definitely working towards the maybe not having negative out the gate as like the amount is like more accessible. But yeah, because they removed chaos res from the mastery, didn't they? You can no longer get chaos res in that chaos mastery.
I think so. Yes, you're right.
I mean, to be fair,
there's a lot of really good masteries, right?
Chaos res.
Well, speaking of chaos, there's that super fucking cracked one, which is 10% of fizz taken from hits as chaos.
Yeah,
which is just 7% less fizz damage taken in any.
It works even better, right? For like CI.
Oh, if your CI is just yeah.
It's just so good. Like there are some of those kind of surprising to me because like they removed a lot of flat bar masters like wither effect, mark effect, stuff like that. But they just add something like this. I don't know.
Well, they gave us +1 max all res too for the armor one.
Was needed.
Yeah,
I think that was needed definitely. But the fizz as extra chaos or taken as chaos. I think that one is too powerful.
Well, have you realized it's an armor and ES mastery though?
Yep.
Those are kind of rare, right? They're only around Templar area, aren't they?
Yeah, it's gonna. I was thinking
Faith
and Steel is the one that stood out to me as the.
So I read that master was like, oh yeah, that's a trickster thing, but trickster is not near those at all.
No. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a top left tree exclusive. Seems cool, but do we want to?
It's really good with the body armor. Like, how was it called? The one you used on Poison Spark?
Incandescent Heart?
And
Think it doesn't hard, yeah.
That's a really good armor
then
in
you-
general.
Yeah, then you're scaling armor anyway.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Perfect.
There's another mastery like that.
Which one?
Wait, let me find.
Sure,
I think it was evasion, yes.
This nerd doesn't even have all his masteries memorized.
Which is straight up 10% less physical damage taken, I think.
Yes.
I think it's on full ES, right? It's 10% physical
There's
damage when you're
well
yeah,
on
when
full
you're-
ES. Yep.
I found, yeah. That's the one that Trickster would
Trickster,
always take,
yeah.
I suppose.
Some interesting ones. The ES ones seem pretty good in general. I did like the overall ES ones. Maybe the biggest talked about one is the adrenaline one. This is, I mean, it's, I'd say problematic for the game state if it becomes like the thing to do, to just be hammer jamming your stances every second. Feels bad a little bit, and then people were obviously saying like just set up macros, just to have it automatically be triggering constantly. Adrenaline's really fucking strong.
Through. I don't think it'll go through. I mean, there's a lot of outcry from content creators, even from Reddit, from everyone. No one wants to do this.
AHK script on the fucking ready. Let's go. Carpal tunnel engaged. Yeah.
But yeah, my like take on those masteries is like they added a lot of defensive options, which kind of is nice, but they removed a lot of just flat damage and like flat stats options from those masteries and gave us kind of nothing back. Maybe like through the they want to keep the
weapon power into
power
weapons.
creep in check. Yeah. I mean power creep in check, but like I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed with some things that they done to like some masteries.
What are the biggest things where we lost? Can we like list them? We lost reservation efficiency, of course, for all the.
I think that's whatever
auras.
because we got the mana mastery, like the mana mastery tags right now instead of specific masteries.
The spell
I think
suppression.
the biggest
We ever picked it up.
Yeah.
Biggest loser is the elemental mastery, in my opinion. It's like they removed element effect.
Yeah, that was a big one. The 40%.
We also lose the crit one.
Yeah, we lost the crit one from suppression as well.
Yeah.
And they gave us nothing on elemental mastery. Like elemental masteries are kind of terrible, in my opinion.
Very, very bad. Yeah.
Lost the 15 Auras elemental mastery too.
Yep.
I like that one. Yeah, same. Same.
We also lost, or at least it got moved. The suppression if you've using only evasion items.
Mm-hmm.
That one is now an evasion mastery.
That was the double nerf to arc where it it lost a chain and it lost lucky, which is poor. Not that arc is the most prevalent build. And we lost the link masteries.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Not the link masteries. Yeah, there's a couple. I think overall, I don't think there's anything that was too egregious removed. It was just kind of, it seemed pretty equi power to what we're gaining. Maybe just not for the same builds.
Dude, to end on a high note about masteries, the one mastery I wanna mention that everyone should be looking at is the flask mastery. Flask mastery that gives you 100% charges when something has an element on it. This is like a sleeper OP thing. Just pick it up.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of flask.
It's so good.
Yep. Zoomers that rise up. Yeah, that and 4% life is nice, and the removal of the flagellant life flasks also. It's a good chunk.
One more interesting one that I noticed was a guaranteed minimum chill is now mastery. At least 10% slow from chill. It's kind of awkward to like pick up a cold mastery if you're not playing a cold build, but you could probably if you're playing some kind of shock scaling build, right? You can somehow squeeze in a cold mastery and get like 1 cold damage and get like a huge chill from that. Because you're scaling element effect already.
There's another one I really love. This is very niche, but monsters cannot block your attacks. Makes Expedition not feel shit. Expedition is fucking awful for blocking monsters. And this basically, I think they could just put, they could have just written Expedition here, but I don't really know where else it is applicable. The fact they wrote monsters means it doesn't apply to all the Grandmasters, I believe, but yeah, it's pretty fucking mandatory for if you're doing Expedition. I would say put this thing on. Granted, they did write attacks. I'm not sure if they have spell block, but if they do have spell block, then you're shit out of luck if you're a caster. But this one's really nice. It's very, very good quality of life. This kind of feels like the light radius thing for ES, where it's like you don't need it, but you know you want it.
There's a relatively easy +2 max res now. One from armor mastery by using armor pieces, and the other one from reserving life and mana.
Yeah,
Which
you just put, like,
just having an
vitality,
arrogance,
yeah.
yeah.
I think that was always something that was missing. Like when we were talking about defenses, like we always said like suppression is the big winner, right side is the big winner, and like max res and block was like kind of not amazing. And I think they addressed that with those masteries, which I'm quite happy about.
Yep.
True. Definitely a bit of a shift in power.
Big shifters rise up. Yeah, look at the elemental masters. They're fucking terrible now.
Yeah, they're so bad. Oh my god,
Very
they're so
watching them.
bad.
One of them is interesting. What do you mean? The reverted resistance. I think that one is really powerful potential. Like if you're playing a build that doesn't have Elo weakness, because you're using Sniper's Mark, for example, right? Then you don't have any lower... the resistance is not lower, right? You're only penetrating. And then this thing is actually kind of insane, isn't it?
I mean, it's going to come out to some amount of damage increase. So every 4 hits on average, you do like, whatever, 50% more damage. And then you mass
say
it
you're
out.
fighting an Uber boss, right? And you only have penetration, no lowering of resist. It's minus 100 res every 4 hits, so 25 on average. It's a 25 pen mastery, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's not that unrealistic, isn't it? Like if you're playing, say, a bow build, you're using Sniper's Mark as your curse. And if you're doing 3 elemental, then you probably don't bother with exposing.
Yep.
Or if you do, it's not much. So
I mean, maybe you're right.
Really
maybe just for bossing purposes, I think that's very good. Yeah, maybe you're right. Like, but I was more thinking about like mapping and bossing. But if you wanna just build,
I mean, use it for mapping too, of course. Like if you get a 40 resist map, then that shit is like 40 pen or something on average.
Big
I mean,
pen.
yeah, but it's very like insanely inconsistent, right?
Well, it's 1/4 inconsistent.
Yeah. I mean, the old masteries on elemental, which is so generically good, like the all res and element effect, that you're gonna miss those a bit.
Yeah, Doriani's prototype giving all positive res. Yeah. Thanks, chat.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. There are some of these masteries I've had to do like double takes reading. Some of them are the one claw was a dagger one. I think it was daggers. Let me double check. I could have, when I first read it, I thought it said calling strike has calling strike. I was like, that doesn't seem right.
Oh, there's instant leech now too, right? We haven't mentioned.
Yeah, so there's a couple
huge.
ways of getting instant leech. There's the per claw one. So 10% of leech is instant per claw. This one doesn't specify life leech. It just says leech. So that's also means
that's
mana
true.
leech, which is nice. And then I think there's just a leech one that also has 10%. But I think that one said life leech. Nope, it also just says leech. So it also applies to mana. The mana portion, honestly, is probably more important than the life portion for sustain. Not that you can get life elsewhere, but like mana problems, you can't even attack without that. So it feels kind of annoying to solve that problem. If you're using maybe a different claw base, I'd prefer to not use a Gemini claw if possible, and it's now if I have a little bit of mana leech, this like might solve my problems outright. They also combine the total recovery per second into both life mana and ES. It used to be like segregated, so
how high is the inherent attack speed bonus? Is it 10% more?
I believe so.
More from dual wielding, yes.
I mean, that mastery is cracked then if you're doing dual wielding. That's like a 10% more damage mastery right there, right?
When's the last time you dual wielded claws?
I'm just saying if.
I think it was a Viper Strike 2012. That was the last time I did that. Yeah.
I mean, it's nice that they're buffing these playstyles though, right?
Yeah. Manny said it confirmed. Claw gamers rise up. That's it.
You're gonna league start it right now, wait for a stream.
Yeah.
P.O. being claw Frostblade's assassin or something like that.
Minimum cold freeze claw gamer rise up. Link build. So is it true, Manny? I heard this through the grapevine, but you're gonna be not playing SSF. You're gonna be playing 2 accounts at the same time, so you could link master yourself. Is that true?
Yeah. I'm gonna find the ring for both builds.
Oh man. I can't believe I'm in the presence of such a link god, Biggest link gamer in the west of the Mississippi. We should probably talk about Ascendancies, because at this current pace, we'll be here for 6 hours, which is fine, I guess. There's there's a bunch of things to say here, but there was supposed to be more Ascendancy changes, but thanks to the glorious pet project that is Ruthless, we will not be seeing all of them at the same time. So we have a Saboteur and Pathfinder. I personally am a little bit uninspired by Pathfinder's changes, although I do think they're good. But Saboteur makes PP extra hard, looking at 30% CDR and fucking
Really?
cool guy bots. The bots look cool. It doesn't matter if they're good. That's whatever. But it's like trigger bots seem like a fun time, just in general, the concept of them. What are your guys' thoughts on the Ascendancy? We'll start with easy. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I gotta be honest,
Yeah,
I haven't really dived much into those yet.
Yeah,
It's
I
all
don't
you
think I'm
guys.
gonna start either. So, yeah, I haven't given it enough thought to it. But
Oh.
I don't think I'm gonna start either. I think the one on the Pathfinder that says Life Flask are enduring now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You could do some cool stuff with that for sure. Changing up the Saboteur kind of, maybe not. You could do traps and mines maybe elsewhere. I mean, I guess that's kind of cool, but other than that, like I said, I don't think I'm gonna league start either. So, personally,
I could be wrong, but it says specifically on. I've lost it. My old man eyes are coming at me. Life flasks are not removed when unreserved life is filled. This doesn't specify non-unique life flasks. So what does that mean for like things like Blood of the Karui? Is it just always active until it what? It never has an end of effect, does it? Or like what
I
is?
don't know.
I'm curious.
Does it have a duration at all?
It has a duration,
Yeah.
but I'm saying it just will never proc the end of effect if you just keep hitting it. You'll just keep getting the passive huge life regen, I guess. Does it work on hybrid flasks, right? It'll only work on life flasks specifically. Otherwise, you can just have certain divination distillate up longer than intended. I'm trying to be forward thinking with Pathfinder here.
Yeah.
It's just interesting because they specifically mentioned for
don't know
Master
answer.
Alchemist, like magic utility flasks. But for the life thing, they just say life. They don't say non-unique life. Chat's saying it works on hybrid flasks. So then unique hybrid flasks will. It might be cool for MFing, I guess. You can have basically 100% uptime of divination distillate, right?
Makes it actually be usable and not, when you pull your hair when you use it, right?
Yeah, you have to disable auras to hit it and call something. Could be cool.
I mean, my take on the Saboteur is, at least, is like, you said it was cool, but it's not that strong, I would say. Like, the main issue I had is like kind of, inventing problems and trying to solve them, or like maybe branching out on the Ascendancy, but you can take it like both ways, right? But for me, like Sabo is always like, it's mine Ascendancy and there's nothing else. And
I think you do to change my mind. There's
yeah, I don't know.
something to be
No
said.
fun.
So people obviously, they see 30% CDR, they get fucking rock solid and say I'm going to play COC. Just to clarify, this plus the current min-max level of COC does not get you to another breakpoint for COC when it comes to CDR. I had Yosis ran the math last night during our podcast. That doesn't really make a difference. So what this ultimately means is you just can start as Saboteur to COC, but if you just actually have gear, it's the same thing. The cool thing with reducing enemy CDR is fun for like, I guess, things like that. But trigger bots could be really interesting because how they interact. There's still like the problem with trigger bots is we have not received remotely any clarification on how they're interacting with a bevy of uniques that could make them extremely fun. We talked about even quivers earlier. The void shot thing should be able to work with like trigger bots We don't know they don't work with certain trigger things like
Can you,
derps,
can you
etc.
explain what the hell trigger bots even are?
So
What do we know about them?
basically, what they do is they have a chance of mimicking your abilities effectively additional times, but there's like unknown constraints to how they operate in some ways. They have a 25% chance to they have a chance to trigger, like it's kind of like COC, but for your whatever active thing you're doing. So what the thing is, whether they consume mana, whether they cause issues like that, it's kind of unknown. But they trigger spells, but they can trigger spells that also trigger abilities. Can those spells do things? It's like, just don't fully know yet. Kind of imagine like Savior, but for a caster, I guess, is a good way of describing it.
You're saying spell savior.
Spell Savior, yeah.
So every time you trigger
spells.
something, it has a chance to trigger as well.
Yeah, I believe it's a chance. It might be guaranteed, but I think it might be guaranteed with the built-in cooldown, which again I guess is reduced. But I don't know if like there's all this, there's a lot of convolution around what.
So is this in any way related to traps or mines?
No, I don't think so.
Triggering a mine or detonating a mine count as triggering it? It doesn't, right?
No, it's just a
No.
second like playstyle.
I guess it's just
archetype.
the wording is unfortunate.
Pushing some kind of like triggering identity onto Sabo, I suppose.
Artificial increase of AoE, I guess, because of they're like skitterbots. They're hyper aggressive. They run out on their own and do that sort of vibe. Again, I'm not sure if it's like spell overlap occurs. I'm not sure if they count as you like totems do, or maybe it's like a mind they have their own identity. Can they be reflected?
Someone's saying traps when they trigger, they can be triggered by trigger bots as well, an additional time.
It's possible. I don't think so, because that was the whole point of that keystone being changed, was to make it more generic. They removed the line that they're triggering additional times to add the trigger bots.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Sorry, I'm clueless. I'm reading this for the first time.
It's not very well described
When I
even in the
looked at the
video.
patch
It's
notes
not
today.
like whatever. I think they're still testing it themselves.
I mean,
So
at
the
the end of the
idea
day,
is-
I think it's cool. Like, it's just cool concepts added to Sabo. So I think that's a positive thing. But
Yeah.
overall, I think while we are, cynically assessing the power level, it's gonna be underwhelming. I think in a lot of situations.
Yep. The other change was Ascendant so they lost 4% life on Flask. They now
It's a
have
mastery now, right? So
Yeah.
everyone has it.
Yeah.
It's really powerful, by the way.
And they have a 25% chance for Flask used to not consume charges for the Ascendant. And then the Saboteur, so Ascendant Saboteur now has 15% CDR. And a 15% chance to do 50% more area damage, which is kind of nice. So CDR and
It seemed
Ascendant.
to me,
Yeah.
it seemed to me that really didn't wanna, say Saboteur is the mine guy. That's what it's.
I don't
says in the
understand
changes.
their stance for saying it's problematic, as if 99% of minion builds aren't necros. Like, what's the problem with there being specialized ascendancies? That's kind of what just seems strange.
Yeah, that's like really
Why-
perplexing.
why?
Because they're not consistent with it. Like if they
Well-
were a bit more consistent with it, then yeah, but
How many
I know.
how many bow builds are rangers, or even specifically just like dead eyes versus other things? It's like you could go through this for basically every single build in the game. There's a by far largest demographic of ascendancies. And it's like,
exactly.
why is that a
That's
problem?
my point. Is like
It's like, I don't understand.
it's like inventing problems and trying to solve them, and I think that's it's not the way to go.
It's not the way. This is the way.
I'm kind of surprised by this extra line here on the cooldown thing on Sabo that says enemies have 10% like longer cooldowns, essentially. Do you think that's going to be noticeable in boss fights?
So he
Like
said
Exile or something
he
doing
said
less phases.
he said it affects the memory game, but like 10% is, I would say, basically a negligible amount, or an amount that you could chalk up to a discrepancy depending on like how good your kill
Yeah,
is
it's going to be hard
going.
to actually notice that, right?
You won't,
It's
because
only-
so if you like were to map out 100 Maven kills you did, they're all going to have obviously different values of DPS and DPS uptime, that discrepancy is probably 10%, meaning it's going to feel, again, negligible, because you don't notice it when you kills are
And it's
slightly
not,
slower,
not
slightly
just
faster.
memory game, right? It's like every ability she casts, because you might do a lot more default attacks. If you might be like just a fraction of a second off being ready to cast another
I don't think
special
she really
ability.
would. I mean, it might be the case that like she does 9 default attacks, or it's like 9 sets of 3 defaults, then 1 set of 10, if that's what you're saying, because it's going to be slightly off sync if she's 10%.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
what is that affording the player? Nothing at all. Like there's no, which really begs the question: where is this applicable? I don't know.
It'd be interesting if you get more of that stat, maybe unique items, and you could actually make bosses not do things anymore, or make them a lot slower.
Sure.
Could be interesting.
You'd have to get to the break point where they're doing 4 autos instead of 3, because almost every boss does 3 autos and an ability, which is it's the
Like
same
10 might just be
reason
too low to
why.
matter.
Same reason why every time. That's why basically anytime a boss has attack speed, it's as if they have CDR, because it's a static rate of attacks and abilities. It's always 3 abilities, 3 attacks, then an ability. So if the boss is attacking faster, they do the 3 attacks faster, they do their abilities faster. So it just seems like at this point you might as well just chill them, because it's going to be better than having given them 10% CDR.
Yep.
New gems. They've added 4 new gems and then a bunch of Val gems.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the new gems remotely to even really speak on them.
Isn't Snipe just the one from the helmet?
It's Asylum Helm. Yeah, I don't. This is one of those many times where Chris is just disconnected from how the game operates, because he was talking about it as if it was something that has never existed before, when it literally is a mechanic in game currently. But yes, Snipe from Asylum is going to be a skill. That was the gist of this fucking display.
I'm excited to see like numbers and how the Val Lightning era looks, because I'm not to jump ahead, but I think that's probably what I'll league start.
You like
I know
that over Ice Arrow? You don't like the ice shot?
I've played Ice Shot before, and I've never really liked it. I
Yeah,
mean, the Val
that's
Ice
fair.
Shot looked amazing and sounds
That's the
great,
thing, yeah.
but I didn't like the playstyle of Ice Shot. I feel like it never hit like the way like Tornado Shot hits or something.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Honestly, Ice Shot also, for me, the biggest downside is visually it's more cluttery. I don't like the visuals of it. It's like the animation's a lot larger, and I typically felt like had a harder time seeing. I mean, obviously the advantage is it's cold damage, which you probably already have, but at least you are guaranteed to shatter and freeze, which is kind of nice. But no, I mean,
I think I remember
yeah.
while playing Ice Shot is like it kind of sounded really like bumpy as well. Like that sound was kind of.
It's grating. It does have grating audio. Yes, these are the complaints of the 1%.
Yeah.
I always felt the
Yep.
skill felt good if you had AoE scaling, but generally you don't
Yeah.
have any AoE scaling on the range anymore.
Yeah.
You used to have like 50% area of effect on Dead Eye. You guys remember
The
that?
thresholds were cracked. That was
Yep.
the thing. It had huge thresholds, and then those are gone. So all that stuff is yeah.
Biggest thing about
It's
these new,
Falcon. Go.
this new support gems, right? They actually look kind of interesting to me.
Which one?
Both the Mana Forged arrows and the Prismatic Burst.
Yep.
Just not really sure how to. Like, I haven't really thought about how to use it properly, but it definitely opens up a lot of ideas,
What are your thoughts on momentum replacing
I have no idea what it is.
So they basically removed Onslaught as a support gem,
Yeah, not that much.
and they added momentum, which turns your feet green.
And how much movement speed does it give?
Next question.
It gives movement speed. Why are you asking? I don't know.
It turns your feet green.
Gives movement speed while stationary.
I don't know what you don't
Yes.
get. Your feet are green. Did you not have the razor footprints growing up? It makes your feet green.
Like memes aside, I honestly don't know what it does.
I think it gives you like
brought up-
10% movement speed. That's it. That's what it really seems like. The video, I thought, was the April
Oh.
Fool's joke they showed off of this.
Really?
Because
Cool.
it was like I felt like I was disabled for a second looking at the side by side when I saw the man moving and then the man moving with momentum on, and I thought it was the same thing at first. I was like, what is the difference? I wish they showed like a 10-foot ruler across the ground in Ray class, and you watched him run, over 2 seconds and side by side, because it looked like his feet turned green, and that was the gist of it.
Yeah, it's literally the office meme, right? It's like the
Yes.
corporate.
What is the
Yep,
difference
it's
between these
literally
two
what.
things? Yes. I this to me feels I don't really know the point of this change personally. Um, is it just a nerf to racing that is affecting 99% of people? I don't know. I don't really know the point of it. If it's as shit as it looks like, then it won't be used. The biggest thing is this going to help you escape from? Is this amount of movement speed going to be beneficial to combating enemies in Acts 1 and 2, basically? Because that's where this is going to be most prevalent for the most people, because you get it on the coast. You get this item on the coast, it's supposed to give you more movement speed. It's supposed to reduce the travel time between packs and help you escape enemies. If it doesn't really do that, what is the point of it? I mean, I guess it could stack with Onslaught later on, because Onslaught still exists in items and Ascendancies. So you can still use Thrill Steal and have momentum. But if it gives you like 15-20% movement speed at like its max level, you've totally missed the mark with what the item's supposed to be doing. Or the support gem. So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see when we get the actual numbers, right? Gem reveal is gonna be soon, surely.
Surely.
Probably.
Surely.
I think it was just in their eyes, maybe they have stats on that. Like not a lot of people, except the 5% whatever people that are interested in minimaxing their leveling, use onslaught support or like even use it well. So they might as well remove it and do some changes to racing.
I loved
For
Onslaught
us,
in
sucks.
my boom mace. That's why I like my Onslaught and things like that. Like abilities that would trigger secondarily and tag large chunks of enemies. I would like Onslaught in there. Even so, things like even Light Poacher, you could have put an Onslaught in there previously and gotten Onslaught, but now you cannot. Game ruined. That's it. You talked a little bit about Val skills. Where the fuck are they on the patch notes? Lost but not forgotten.
One I'm really excited. It's Val Reap. Val Reap sounds amazing.
I was
Do we know how
really,
it looks yet?
Yeah, it's in the video. You didn't watch, piece of shit. It's in the trailer. It puts a puddle on the ground that does crazy damage, and it gives you a bunch of blood charges, overcapping your blood charges.
Yeah, but exactly the dot is like whatever. Who cares? Like only cut people play his dots, right? But the increasing blood charges is the spicy part, because you click it and your normal
10,
reap
9,
just
10?
goes ballistic, right?
I think it gives you like double the
so
amount. I was really surprised by that change, because I feel like it seems am I getting a message on Discord? Oh my god, I am. I'm so popular. I'm really surprised of that change, mostly because what's it called? It seemed like Reap didn't really need it. Personally, I mean, every time I played a build that used Reap, I have to fucking readjust my shit now. It just felt like it was, good enough as is for single target, but apparently they thought it needed more single target. Surprise to me. What you got? I mean,
I think if you don't abuse, your insane builds at the end of league that we like to do, the 1%ers, I think is a nice addition to the archetype of Exsanguinate or like KB CF, right, or some kind of.
Now Val Exsanguinate, I would have liked to have seen that, because that could have. I just think Reap. I was expecting, because you say Reap, right? I'm thinking like the Grim Reaper. I'm a huge scythe, something wild. The visual did not really correspond to how badass I was expecting Val Reap to look, especially when you compare it to the other Val skills they're adding. Like, instead of one little scythe, it's two little scythes in a puddle, and then you have cut to Val Absolution, and you're summoning a god. Like, it didn't really hold up to the other ones.
I didn't really think from that angle. I think you're right. It's like kind of wet fart, but mechanically it's exciting.
Big wet fart. No, I'm sure it's really good. There's no reason really not to use it eventually, seemingly. So, especially if it's just a huge chunk of single target. I loved the idea of Val Absolution, but Absolution is not the greatest thing known to man. The idea of summoning just a big cool dude is really cool. Same with Animate Weapon. So I guess I'll just, since Manny has not watched the trailer or done any homework, clearly, I'll tell him what it does.
Yes, please.
Val Animate Weapon summons unique weapons throughout the game on top of your existing weapons. So you could summon like
Random ones.
So you can get like a Star Forge will pop up, or like a Lionized Bow. Just a bunch of unique weapons will start showing up.
That's funny.
It seems cool. Arctic Armor. Did you see Arctic Armor? Because you might like that one.
Yeah, that one I saw.
Yeah.
That one looks really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, that one looks pretty fucking cracked. If you can actually keep it up, which I think should be very doable, to the point where you could skip like boss phases effectively in Uber bossing, that seems really strong.
Well, the duration is rather short. I don't think you can like skip the entire thing.
No, you can't. You can't do like you can't skip like ball phase for Exarch, but you could take a
Maven
slam. Oh yeah. Or
Right.
or even if you fuck up memory game.
Yeah, I meant memory game. Yeah,
Honestly, that would probably speed it up. You could just hit the wrong one purposefully,
Yeah.
and then because that really makes it go
Yeah.
fast, and then just
Depends how many souls it costs and if you can,
True.
build it up in time.
yeah. There's some interesting skips that can be done for like speed running boss kills effectively. Lightning Arrow seems really good. Ice Shot seems really good. They both just seem like huge amounts of clear and single targets. So those skills already seemed fine, and now they just have a big button. Firestorm seemed kind of a little bit like Reap, where it's like it's just the same animation, but it leaves a puddle that does a lot of damage. Sure. And then Rejuve Totem, which I think is the only one we don't know about yet, right? We don't know what Rejuve Totem does. I don't think we've seen that.
Rejuve Totem is a really strong thing that because you can scale it with aura effect, right? So like normal Rejuve Totem. So
Did they show what the Val one does though?
No, they haven't. No.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just mostly mentioning normal Rejuve Totem.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to give some perspective to people, because probably 99% of people don't know what it even does. No one uses it. So it can be like really strong defensive utility if it's like
Yep.
low souls, for example.
They also
It's-
yeah, and there's the Val Domination, which is listed, which we don't know what that is yet, but could be Dom below, could be something. I don't know. Unknown skill.
It's weird that it's differently named, so
Yeah,
could be something new.
that would be the second Val skill they've added that doesn't have a base skill, because there's the Gluttony one. The right, isn't that, or no? Does that have Val skill? What is the one that gives the
It's
reverse?
technically Val Breach as opposed to.
Yeah, Val Breach. Could be.
Domination sounds like some Diablo 4 Lilith.
Oh yeah, no, chat's right. There was in the
I think it's a
trailer.
shrine-related thing, domination.
In the trailer,
it
they
just
did
spawns
have
random shrine.
they had a visual for summoning the guard that Innocence uses. So it could be Val Dominating Blow that summons one giant dude, but that could have just been Val Absolution, and Innocence just summons the giant dude also. So I'm not sure if that's the same one, but could be very cool.
I mean, if it was a giant dude, why not call it Dominating Blow?
Why not call it Val Giant Dude? These are the questions we ask.
Yeah.
Chris, answer, please, right now.
Christopher. Gateways. Manny, you messaged me specifically about this because you're like,
God.
please, lady, please, let me talk about gateways.
I don't really
Please.
want to talk.
I said, all right, fine, man. No, it's fine. I was like, you could talk about your gateways.
You can do, yeah.
It's,
money.
Isn't the Atlas the most exciting thing about each patch? So I figured we shouldn't skip
the
that
Atlas
one.
Passage Tree? Yes. Yeah, no, you are.
Do we know where the locations of each of those?
Gateways are
are?
dog
Yeah.
shit.
I don't understand the point of them as far as I know what they function, but I don't understand the point of them as far as like why they exist. Like
because-
lore wise, but like
But you know how
it's a
some-
travel node but min-maxed. That's
Yeah, but some mechanics are so far apart, right, that you can almost never combine them. Like very often you're combining like Harvest and Expedition because they're like right next to another. But what if
actually
you wanted to
tried,
combine like Beyond and Breach at the same time, but you're spending like 50 travel points, you want to build a tree of that.
it just
I
begs
think there
the
were some like saves and
This
like
gives you like
essences.
different options now.
Yeah.
Yes, like some saves on some essence, but yeah, I don't know.
It seems like an artificial level of complication that could just make the tree better, pathing wise. It adds
How do you
nothing
make
to.
a tree better?
You could change how it originates. Instead of originating from the bottom, you can have it originate from the middle, like the regular passive tree. Then it's equidistant to reach everything. I'm saying this just seems like a band-aid for them wanting to redesign how the tree's laid out.
I think I want to iterate what I meant by that's negative comment.
Legi
I
hates
mostly talk-
things. That's what I read. That's what I heard.
That's how it is. But what I meant is that they're just not very powerful at the moment. Because I tried to make like trees with them, to come up with something that makes sense, like with current setup of the Atlas Passive Tree, and there was like nothing good. I mean, yeah, Manni said combining two things at the same time, it's good. Yeah, premise of the thing is very good. I love it, but the execution and like the fact that you have to spend points to even allocate them and travel,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't make sense. So
you just don't
I'm
save
disappointed.
that many points in the end, right? Like it's kind of
Yeah, it's
niche
like-
to actually find a tree where it's worthwhile.
The only
there might be
tree that
a
I found
tree.
is like, yeah, sorry, easy go on.
No. Yeah, I mean, there might be a tree that comes out that's just like a magic find tree that, maybe a skip across like enables something crazy, but
I like how one of them is like right next to the influence node, so you can like easily swap from Exile to Ether without like redesigning your tree entirely.
I think that's the like biggest use of it. I think like the tree I came up with that kind of made sense. It was like expedition with Exerc. Like that is the biggest thing you can do it, right?
I would agree. The Eldritch ones seem to be the ones that are calling you the most as far as when not because they're just so far apart. And they're on since you're probably gonna be picking up the map effect umbrella anyway in most circumstances, at least you'll be around it. But I really don't see how like the middle and the bottom ones are really gonna be applicable to where it's gonna be like because you don't want to spread yourself too thin anyway. I mean, it's not as if you're running 9 mechanics at once. You're typically sticking to 2 to 3 things.
Yeah.
So it's like what is the problem that this is actively solving? Aside
What if you
from the
like
extra
briefly
thing?
want to respec into something like Sencho said in chat, it's about respecking less. Like say you want to do a quick 10 maps with Abyss to hunt like a quick base or something, right? But in the left side of the tree now you can like save a bunch of points from respecking into it. Or if you want to run a couple like harvest sections real quick, you need the harvest nodes. Maybe you can save a bunch of regrets, a bunch of unmakings because
yeah.
pathing or picking it up is faster now or cheaper.
Did they say if this is gonna go into Ruthless, I guess, as well? I mean, I could see it being pretty valuable there.
Saving points, yeah, surely.
Could be. Could be.
Lighty's
Saying
favorite
they
league.
implemented gateways because of Ruthless.
Yeah,
Alright,
there
I
you
mean,
go. Yeah,
that's-
exactly.
The second they announced
There we go.
Ruthless, I said this is the biggest mistake this game has ever seen. This will eventually become Ruthless the game. This is nothing but draining resources. And I feel like every league I am just proven more and more correct as these changes are made that feel like they're just strictly coming because of Ruthless League. I digress.
I mean, every time I see Chris or hear Chris mention Ruthless, I can already feel the blood of half the player base boiling. Oh my god, he said Ruthless.
Yeah. It's especially when you know that there's like multiple people working on it as a side project, and then there's just that one guy who's in charge of all of trade, which was like the funniest thing when he's like, "Yeah, we have the one guy in that department." And I'm like, "Okay." So not only are you pulling resources now, but there's just one fucking dude with his, in the office, everything's on fire. Got it. KW. Any of you guys taking time to play Ruthless this league? I mean, I played it. Did any of you play it this league? I played it this league for one character just to get to maps in hardcore, just to say I did it, and then I deleted the character because that was the end of that experience, I guess. Did you guys play Ruthless at all? I know Manny did. I think some. What are your thoughts on Ruthless now and going into next league?
Started it in December and played it until Christmas, and then I picked it up again for the Ruthless with Gold for a couple days, but yeah, kind of quit pretty early because of burnout.
Yep.
Kind of got bored, but I mean, I think it's pretty much exactly as expected. It's like an alternative to regular PoE, and I'm definitely gonna keep like picking it up whenever I'm bored of regular PoE.
Any plans on doing the upcoming race event?
No.
Yeah, that sounds about average. Yeah. Everyone I talk to who races hardcore is like, yeah, I'm not touching that fucking
Maybe if it
event.
was like a race to regular Ether and it would only take a week or a couple days, then maybe. But
I think
I'm not gonna commit to like a month or two,
the
to
fact
be
that
Ubers.
the big race event for this is in Ruthless Hardcore to me is the biggest tell of a disconnect from how that game mode plays, like who's playing it, if it's even possible. Some people, I imagine if people actually try hard at it, you could probably get it done in a week or so with like real slim
Nah,
margins.
I doubt a week, but relatively short, yeah, less than a month.
I think they could
If
cook
like
it, but
people,
yeah.
if there was actually like a huge prize, right, and people would try as hard as they do in Gauntlet, then I'm sure they could beat it in a month or less. But a week is unreasonable.
Yep. I just reeks of non-side projects. That's all I'm gonna say. Doesn't smell like a side project anymore. What are your I guess we could talk about builds real quick. So what is everyone's starter? I know Legi was doing some testing 1 minute before the podcast began. So what are all our plans for starter builds? I guess we'll start with easy. What's your plan for starting? Do you have any projects you want to work towards? Any things you want to make down the road? Hit me.
Yep. I think right now I'm gonna start Lightning Arrow. I know bows typically are, kind of can struggle to get off the road, but I think with some of these changes, I don't think it'll be too bad, especially introducing like the Val Lightning Arrow and then just switch into a tornado shot. I'm really just looking for again like just a fast, efficient build. If I can do it all like in one take and just roll one character this league, with some of the Sabo nerfs and like seismic nerfs, ideally I could start like a bosser, but I don't know what that would be, so I'm just thinking just go with the map route the gate and build it up into a tornado shot.
I don't think Death Wish was nerfed at all. If you're interested in that, I know you just played Elementalist, but that build is kind of correct still. It feels like.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, it would be just, I'm still like I think we all are to a degree, heavily just on the unique grind. So whatever I can do to get the Crucible ones up as quick as I can, and then just start working to the last few that I got missing, like like Expedition Helm or whatever, and just focus on the one heist unique, and then just focus, whatever build into that content is kind of like my goal. But yeah, just like a one trick pony, well rounder that can do bosses and map quick.
Do you think there's going to be a boss for this mechanic?
I think so. That's my only kind of hesitation to starting like a lightning arrow, because typically, they're going to be a little bit more squishy.
Yep.
So I'd hate to have like the trial master fight where, you get like 100 maps and you get this boss for a chance at the unique and then you die and lose it.
Very true.
So that's my only reservation to starting lightning arrow. But if I had to answer right now, if we were logging in 5 minutes, that's what I pick.
Hashtag login.
So you're starting SSF this time, easy, not like trade league.
Yeah. I'm gonna start straight SSF, get out the gate, and then I think I'm gonna try to farm. I think I'm gonna go like tower nurse route, and then like and try to get the headhunter. I think that's
the headhunter, not the good belt.
Not the mage blood. No, I don't think so. I think I'm gonna go nurse. I think I'm gonna go nurse's tower.
I feel like there is something to be said about mage blood is the best unique in game in my opinion, bar none. But it's not sexy, Like headhunter's sexy. There's something about playing a bow build with a headhunter that is just fucking fun. That mage blood doesn't really fix that itch in a way. So I do kind of feel you there, where it's like, yeah, I could farm a header, but doing crimsons for apothecary again, it's like, Jesus, that's like a fucking monumental thing,
It kind of goes back to like Legi's like farming patients over like farming doctors, right? It's like nice to get like 1 or 2 patients.
Yeah, you feel like you're making
you can run like
making progress.
Yeah. So like nurses, I feel like says obviously you're not gonna get a nurse every map, but you'll get nurses.
You won't, amateur.
not with that attitude.
Yeah.
But I feel like, you know,
it's
farming
Scourge
for this
2.0,
164th.
Now just
of,
imagine running through tower with a fucking light poacher popping off the whole time. Ooh boy. Can't wait. How about you, Leg Boy? What are you playing for your starter? You got any big builds you playing? Any secret tech?
I mean, I'm addicted. I have to admit, I am addicted. I cannot stop playing Plague Bearer.
Okay. I'm glad you said that.
But yeah,
Not heroin or something. It's good.
well, you know.
You know. That was a given, to be fair.
Exactly. But I don't know what I want to start. I'm gonna do the usual as a sort of league start. I'm pretty excited, you know, for grinding endgame as always. But the builds I'm still like jumping between is BV Occultist because they killed Poison Concoction, unfortunately. And
what exactly was changed with that is now dead?
So it's not dead, but it's kind of changed, and it's, I would say, not usable on Occultist in a league start scenario. So instead of using 2 charges flat, if you have, let's say, 9 projectiles or more than like 2 projectiles, right? It uses 1 charge per projectile now. So
got it.
Usually you used Volley and GMP, right? So it uses 9 instead of 2. So it's a pretty steep increase.
Yeah.
But other than that, maybe Cold Out, maybe Bone Shatter, you know, maybe it's time to bomb this time around. But still on the fence.
If you ran Bone Shatter, would you do as a Slayer or a Juggernaut? Or something else champion?
Slayer.
Champion with adrenaline.
I mean, I would do Slayer, I think. Slayer is the best Ascendancy for melee, as we all know.
Yep, big bonk.
Praise the the red shirt.
Mm-hmm.
But don't do Bosser. I don't want to do a Bosser. I just want to blast maps and acquire content and then do a Bosser later. I think that's how you should be doing. But not decided yet.
And there's any big project build you want to do down the road of League, or you just kind of see what drops and wangle it out from there?
I think for me, it's either the same as easy. I'm gonna do Bow Dude once again because bows look amazing.
Yeah,
but
you're right.
I think the build I'm really interested in, I think, is the Reap. Like that's why I'm quite excited about Bald Reap, right?
Are you gonna try to farm out a Awakened Cascade, because that makes Reap feel a whole lot better?
Most likely, yes. I mean, it depends when it drops, and like if it drops, I'm probably gonna be farming Mavens for the Sextant just for magic finding, Counter, and Mage Blood.
We didn't actually.
Efficient way of doing it.
It's funny you should mention it. We could touch on real quickly the
all right.
The whole the entire Sextant meta that basically was the foundation for mapping this entire league. Let us have infinite attempts at many things with mass amounts of investment application, has been totally gutted to where it now does not consume, has become a 50% chance to consume. I'm not going to say it's impossible to maintain, but it's impossible to maintain probably remotely close to the same amounts.
I really dislike this nerf. Like, I mean, I know what it does. It makes sense, but it feels so bad.
The reason
the way they did it.
I think this feels so bad to me is that they typically phrase these changes and the reasoning behind them as if this is some form of strategy that was all accessible and you could just like start the game and do it. This required a lot of setup, a lot of currency, a lot of buffer. It was not like just Alk and Go mapping. And then they kind of treated it as such with this nerf. So it's really strange that it was just like kind of just a slap at a 50-50 failure, and that was it.
I think it was very problematic in Trade League, in my opinion. Like the entire Sexton thing. It was really, you say it was pretty hard, but like in Trade League Endgame,
SSF obviously it's way harder than Trade. In Trade, you just had to buy the things. But even then, if you were to buy the big one, I think it was 70 Divine for the top end section.
Yeah, it was, but like you could resell it. So I usually think it's if you can buy it, then you can resell it. So it's not really a problem. But still, like it was quite easy to sustain, and now it's just instead of raising the ceiling, you know, let's say it would cost 7,000 lifers, so it's like guaranteed that you can actually do it when you want to do it. It's like maybe you'll just run out and it sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially just means your sextants last twice as long if you're always using it, right? So if you get the winged scarab sextant, you're gonna have 32 uses on average instead of 16, but not infinite uses anymore.
Yep.
Which, it's less variance because last league, if you didn't find it, you wouldn't have any scarabs, and if you did find it, you had infinite.
Yep.
And now it's like, when you find it, you get a bunch, but not infinite. Probably a lot fairer,
Ultimately, yeah.
Because I remember how bad it felt last league not to find it.
I don't know how it
find
feels.
Yeah.
Like you found it like really early on. Yeah.
I found like
If
4 of them. I don't
You're
know
gonna have
what you
infinite
guys doing.
sextants anyway, Leggy, because you're gonna find it like every 10 sextants,
It's
It's
true.
gonna be fine.
True.
It's got that new
know.
Ruthless streamer client.
But it's actually a good point. I didn't think of it as extending the section by 50%. So maybe you're right.
That's the silver lining.
It's
Cool
okay.
beans. Manny, what's your starter build? What's your big project build? What do you want to do? What's your blood
Well, I
type?
wish I knew,
Okay.
but I'm flirting with bow builds right now. It's just league starting a bow character for once.
Yes.
Just maybe lightning or maybe ice shot. If the ball ice shot looks good, I'm not sure yet.
They both look good. It
Uh,
just seems like it makes 6 copies of yourself that go fucking ape shit for 20 seconds. That seems to be
Exactly. Like that can't be bad, right?
That's kind of, yeah.
Like what I really like about starting bow is that we get 2 extra arrows on the tree now. So
Yes.
if we pick those up and we
Yes.
go Deadeye, we have 5 arrows. We don't need GMP link anymore,
I agree. Yep.
which is,
Big
instead
less
of going
multiplier.
for
Yeah.
less multiplier, we go for a more multiplier instead. Should be huge.
Yep. And
Also going to
Deadeye
make
feels
Barrage
good.
setup so much better.
Deadeye feels good. Barrage feels good. Sniper's Mark is God's gift to the world, so feels nice.
So yeah, I'm just, not having armor on the league set. It's going to be evasion only, so I'm going to hate myself getting one shot by every second boss,
Yeah.
or rare. What can you do?
Easy, you gonna say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say too, like, obviously at first bows can be a little bit slower to get off the ground, and you're not gonna have multiple gold oils, day 1, 2. But if you did farm blight, I think I can't remember who. There was a video I was watching. But like another like big buff to bows indirectly too is like they changed the way like Vengeance Cascade worked and like return
Right.
projectiles. So I think that
Oh,
yeah, so like that's gonna be like a top, like a S tier anoint now, because they reworked it to where I think basically it works how you thought it would have worked when it originally got released.
so it would
'Cause
multi-hit every time now?
Yeah, that's kind of what I got out of it. Definitely fact check it, but there was big hype I was heard on a video
Yeah.
about the
I
return.
know there
of
were like a lot of lines about the behavior of returning
I
projectiles.
think
and
they
patch notes. I didn't really
amended it
understand.
when Nimbus came in the game, was because they kind of had to, since that was the same behavior. So it should work like kind of like how Spectral Throw salvos work, where when it comes back and then goes back, it like ticks an extra time. So I don't know if it's just strictly
I mean,
doubling
in this
damage. but-
patch, in 3.21 now, we're gonna have different behavior for returning projectiles because it was inconsistent.
Yeah.
And now they fix a lot of it.
Could be good though.
Yeah, that could be good. Could be nice. But yeah, no idea what other builds I'm gonna do afterwards. Just looking forward to doing, the Keurig map device is awesome, so there's always gonna be something to farm, Abyss, Essence, Ambush, Heist, Expedition Harvest. Should be a pretty good SSF league.
Yeah. I
So-
noticed you didn't say Metamorph. How dare you? The greatest league ever made. Thank you. Yeah. I will I did my random as I often do, build selection this league.
What did you hit?
So this league I instead of doing a wheel, I threw darts at a dartboard. I figured I'd pick a build the same
You
way.
missed the board and you have no build now.
Well, as I put 20, so a dartboard has 20 slivers, so I put 20 builds on the dartboard. I threw darts, and every time I hit a build, I'd remove that, and it ended up. And I put some of these builds in here a little bit scuffed for fun. I hit a scuffed one, so I'm playing Chieftain Firestorm as my league start. Not-
Not sick. Wildfire Stone.
Yeah, I'm doing Cast One Channeling Firestorm, so.
Oh no.
I cannot believe that you're playing Casper Chalik again with some shitty skill.
How dare you
Amazing.
disrespect the mighty Cast One Channeling? One day they'll make it really good, I swear. Now the last one time I did
And
Cast
they-
Channeling was Blight. It was Blight and Soul Rend, and that was fucking bad. And this is going to be fucking bad. But I think I made my tree. I made my build. I have like 9 keystones on this build. Also, I'm going like blood magic with like like supreme ego and stuff. I'm gonna go Iron Will. It's gonna be a great time. But yeah, Firestorm's really cool. I figured I'd use the new Val Firestorm. Should be a time. I do really want to get into the Abyss though. I love the buffed Abyss things. Abyss costing nothing. 2C per map is like great. So I look forward to that after we I set up my house and do my Maven, my Feared, all that stuff. Just gonna sit at Abyss probably until I have a couple 2 sockets and probably play a bow build similar. I would love to use that new bow and the has their quiver being buffed. That seems so fun to me.
Like Abyss week 3 then, you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Week 3. Well, We'll see. This league I had Feared done it day 5 or 6, then my Atlas complete. Actually, I know I was missing one synth map for like a month. I forgot about that. But aside from that, I had everything done. Firestorm is going to be a 40-minute Maven fight, probably, so I'm not looking forward to that. I don't even know if the Feared would ever end doing Firestorm.
Good content, definitely.
Yeah, I think if I have 400k damage, it'll be a blessing. I might just have to reroll as we get closer to the bosses to an actual build, but look forward to that.
It's just funny to me. It's like the most likely thing for you to happen.
Yeah, well, it was between this and like Impending Doom Occultist or something. So it was like actual build and then this shit. So it was, c'est la vie. Here we are.
That's great.
Yes. I guess we could open up to Q&A now, because if anyone has any questions, I'll just start pulling them from chat. Someone asked, how's the lack of Divine Printer going to affect your crafting goals? We don't really know, because we don't really know how... I mean, it's hypothetical that this mechanic could give us Divines, but there's going to be Divines locked behind the weapons in Crucible, potentially, because of how they vendor. I don't imagine we're going to be getting more currency than this current league. So, probably just... I think the bigger factor for crafting for a lot of us, especially for SSF, especially for endgame SSF players, is going to be the lack of fracturing orbs, if anything. But you could just, just use less good gear. So that's fine. We'll just figure it out.
I think you just have to do a bit more side content, like a bit more heist with like a trinket or a bit more expedition. I think at the end of the day, it's not going to be that big of a deal, because obviously Sanctum was insane Divine Printer. Like you had more divines that you know.
Yeah, on average, one every like 6-7 maps, pretty much.
Yeah, ideas to craft something with, right? But it's gonna be fine. A bit more tedious, but just temper expectations and don't waste divines.
Agreed.
You could just waste divines and still have plenty.
Be more frugal, basically, up until crafting.
Yeah.
Question for Easy. He'll ask, Tower Prison for Nurse versus Waste Pool for Prison for Doctor. The new Doctor map. So, Nurse, which one of those would you like? Is there a reason you picked Tower specifically versus another map?
I just think, just again, being able to like know that you can get at least a nurse a day or 2 or 3 or 4 or something, right? Versus like you could run like maps all day. Just the satisfaction of like hitting it. Plus, I don't like hitting that little. I don't like the 10-15 second Deodre.
The lever.
Period.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Doesn't the Tower Prison boss have 3 phases?
That's true too.
God.
Just talk myself out of Tower.
Yeah, I mean that boss has.
You gotta run
2.
Armory, man. Armory is the king.
Yeah, that boss is... Well, Armory, that's what Legi did. It seems pretty nice. The layout's maybe not as linear as Tower, but at least it's,
Armory's amazing. There's like also the card for scouting reports. I would recommend the Armory. I had Blast.
Well, Tower is nice too because you can get like home cards, so you can at least get like your first Enlightened.
Oh, right. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Now we're back in the Tower. Yeah, there's really. I mean, that's
better, I think.
It's a big factor that we often talk about, especially because we focus on SSF. Is that that's a great looking div card, Merciless Armament. Someone who made that card. There's a big factor of what maps we fall on is obviously the layout, and then the biggest factor is typically the divination cards that are locked behind it. You have cards like the Patient farming up to the Nurse to the Doctor for Armory. That's what Legi did, and it takes a cajillion patience to get a Headhunter, but when you start cranking up the IQ, IR, it becomes really nice. And then you start looking at the secondary cards. Because it's like, well, the road to get a Headhunter could be 2,000 maps, right? So it's like, what does that mean for the other things? he mentioned the side quest. It's 5 cards that gives you 20 scattering reports. Scattering reports are pretty cracked, so it's like this is actually quite good in itself. So that's a big factor as it as well. I mean, Easy mentioned the tower. Tower, I believe, offers the staff and the belt ones also, right? You have
Rich, yeah.
home card for exceptional gems. The tower for belts. You have the wretch not even on here anymore. I'm tripping balls. I don't know. Anyway, there's definitely a belt card. It's not listed here for some reason. Am I on the old wiki? No. All right. I don't know. Unknown factors. But yeah, looking at secondary card is a big part of it as well. There's no shortage of fun cards ahead. Wretch was moved apparently. Gone from tower. Yeah, no tower for Easy anymore. He's moved on.
Yeah, I just got talked. Maybe I'm just living in like 2020 still.
It really also depends how you like doing a map. Like if you like tower as a map, just bit long card or even skipping the boss, not even like caring about efficiency for for a minute. Like you can be efficient, but like still kind of like the map. So
Yeah.
there's the choice. I just like armory. It's a lot of mobs and it feels fine. Also.
Were you, when you farmed out your headhunter army, were you gambling the cards progressively?
Never gamble if you decide to do long-term farming. In my opinion, I don't know. Like every time I gambled and I
love it though.
I even won or lost, I just feel bad to me. I'm just
gamble.
a big proponent. Just a big proponent of not gambling. Just
Yeah,
be
I pulled the.
consistent and
Oh, sorry.
I love it.
I pulled the Lighty.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Legi.
I don't know, man. It never happened to me. I'm just bad at gambling.
Did you gamble also, as you said?
I pulled the Lighty, like a Calandra Mage Blood this league. I dropped a card, put it to 5, and had fun this league. So
It makes you a better person. It makes you better than people around you. Just saying, it's a fact. If you could make 1 doctor into 8 doctors, you become better. It's like leveling up. It's like going Super Saiyan.
I just prefer dropping belts. I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
Well, then your pants are gonna fall down your ankles. Then your peep is hanging out. Yeah, think about the full picture here, like 512. Just to never forget the number of how many patients you need to get a headhunter. 512. That's a lot of patience.
Take the patience.
It's a bit of a double entendre. Do you have the patience to farm 512 headhunters?
512 headhunters?
What? No, that too. Next league goal confirmed.
I do not have the patience to farm 512 headhunters.
Fair enough. I think there's another question in chat. Where the fuck is it? I'm sure I missed some. Do you guys think the Hyro Arcane Surge buff is enough to beat Inquisitor Elementals for some self-cast builds? I guess it depends on what else you're doing with Hyro. Hyro has what the fuck is it called? The brand thing? That's kind of cool. Am I tripping balls? Thought it had the brand thing.
I think it's a good
sign of
thing
purpose.
for trade. Like if you can combine it with like Inquisitor Pen, for example, with Forbidden Jewels, I think Hyro can be quite strong, honestly.
Big mana could come back. There hasn't been a lot of big mana builds for a decent amount of time. 4 minimum base charges is like nothing to scoff at, especially if you start using like Arn's Anguish or any of the other Maven belts. It's like not terrible. Yeah, Hyro's fine.
Like
it's just
combining just Hyro being just good as a like generally good Ascendancy with a lot of like raw power with like some specific things from Inquisitor. I think that's what could work. But I think it's still gonna be Inquisitor with Hyro things added on top of it. So I think that way would be better.
Yeah, I mean you could just Forbidden Flame, or for whatever, your Arcane Blessing, and then play Inquisitor versus the opposition. It's also, or you can just get Conviction Power. If you're in Trade League, I think Hyro, Forgotten and Forbidden shouldn't be crazy, whatever. It's a good point to be made. The +4 min power charge with the new Tollfall and Tollborn are kind of cool. Have that permanent uptime of just free flat damage. Yeah. Any other questions in chat? Does the Life Regen Mastery from Fire Mastery to anyone? Oh, that's another one that was actually removed that I was really sad about. Where is it? The the Ignite mastery for fire that said you gained 2% life upon igniting a new enemy. That one was removed. I really liked that one. And that one's gone now, which is very sad. I really dislike the current fire masters. I feel like they're kind of super shit.
Explosions, though. That's huge.
I mean, it is. It does stack with existing explosions, and you do have alternate forms of explosions. It's fine. I mean, explosions are not what they used to be. Like, since they don't self-propagate, it's kind of just always been a tad mediocre since the change of how the explosions work for the old Crusader chests and synthesis ones. But it's fine. It's free damage. I mean, 3% is like enough that pretty much every pack or two, you're going to be proccing it. But it's just, you know.
Yeah, especially like really relevant on Elementalists because they will ignite and prolife. I think it's
the biggest problem is it did say burning enemies. Like, I wish it said like I don't know how else they could phrase it. Like if it said burning or scorched, I'd be more happy because the problem is that there's a lot of times I might be using alternate quality elements or alternate element types and it doesn't apply.
Yeah,
it's a little bit annoying. It's a minor gripe, I should say, but 3% is fine. I'm not sure if the other ones are really 50% chance to refresh ignite duration on crit. That's the real one. Breakdown out the back. How many of us will be using adrenaline macros this league? I will not. I'm abstaining. If it makes it to the main game, I will not be macroing because I think I'm gonna get fucking banned. But also, I just don't want to do it because it seems stupid. Probably very good, but anyone else gonna be planning on using any adrenaline memeing?
No, I'm gonna pretend it doesn't exist.
Same.
Just like taxes.
Terrible design. Please remove it.
All right, any last questions? We'll do a couple more, and then we'll fucking disappear into the night. What time is it by you guys anyway? You're in like Candyland, right? 9 p.m. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's like it's like your bedtime. You're an old man.
Yeah.
I'll ask a question because I could do that. What are you guys be playing any other games leading up to league launch? For example, I typically try to abstain from Path for like 2 or 3 days before the league starts to, detox. Are there any games you guys have been playing or plan on playing as we get closer to league launch?
Hearthstone Battlegrounds the last couple of days or even like 2 weeks.
I should kick you from this chat.
I'm rank 1 already, so back to PoE soon.
Rank 1 global? Rank 1 top 500?
He's rank 2, Venture's rank 1.
Oh man. Disgusting.
I've been playing my usual, cycle of PoE and not PoE. Is like I played Overwatch, play some FPS game.
It's actually Overwatch 2, sir. Thank you very much. It's the sequel.
It's just good to me right now.
To be fair, Overwatch 2 is as much a sequel as Path of Exile 2 will be a sequel. It's just a minor expansion.
I think Path of Exile 2 is going to be a bigger sequel than Overwatch 2.
Oh, Overwatch 2 is supposed to have PVM. Path of Exile 2 is supposed to have new Ascendancies. Both projects will be scrapped. It'll be released as a half project. That is that.
We'll see. Yeah. Even though like the publicity about the game is kind of terrible, and the game overall is not amazing. I always have
CS:GO
fun,
2, same thing.
Just casually playing. I think it's just fun.
Casual Coomer Legi on the move. How long will we predict the Ruthless event will take? I said like a couple weeks. I think if people who are good enough and would be wanting to do it would do it, I think it would take them a couple weeks. However, I don't think those people want to do it because it would be a mass amount of effort, and even then, it could still take a month. And it's like everyone I've seen who looks at people who have the gear at month 3, they're like, I don't want to touch the content with that gear, let alone, week 2 or 3 gear. So I kind of hope it doesn't even happen.
Yeah, I actually spoke with some people that could compete, right? Like that could win. So I spoke with like people like Oscar, Ben, and obviously Nick had his statement on on his stream, right?
Yep.
And no one wants to do it. It just doesn't make sense for them to do it, and it's just boring. And it would take around 3 weeks to a month to like complete when you focus on it. And if you get maybe a bit lucky, would take 2.5 we'll see. But they are just not doing it. So the event will take the full duration because no one will finish.
I kind of hope no one finishes, and they stop.
I really
and they,
hope
and they
so.
stop. And they stop fucking pushing Ruthless, and they leave it
Yeah,
as a
I
side
really hope
project
no
where it
one.
belongs.
Yeah, no one finishes, no one competes. Like just nothing.
Learn your lesson,
I
old
hope so.
man. Someone asked a question earlier, which I would want to address because it is important. And they said, do I think, so I said I don't want Ruthless to exist because I think it detracts too much from the core game. They said, well, would you think that's also applicable to Solo Self-Found? As in, would you prefer Solo Self-Found didn't exist since most players don't play it, so they focus more time on the core game? To which I would answer equally yes. If it was better for the game, then they should delete Solo Self-Found. Because I could play with those constraints myself, just like you could play with the constraints of Ruthless yourself. Before Solo Self-Found existed, I played Solo Self-Found. We're like the first swath of people to basically invent the game mode in Path because we felt the game was too easy, so we added our own constraints. That's where Solo Self-Found originated from within Path of Exile. If it was best for the health of the game, I'd want them to make that decision. I just don't feel like Ruthless is remotely that decision. So if it was up to that, I would prefer them just delete Solo Self-Found, and every good change that Path has made, exists, and that's fine.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I wholeheartedly agree with you. It is like it's the health of the game and the game being good for 99% of people is most important thing, right? And also like the biggest distinction between Ruthless and Soul 7 is Soul 7 is the same game with the same rule set.
That's the biggest thing. It's a different. There's no difference in balance. There is not a single change that is made to Path of Exile that is freely made with Solo Self-Found in mind. In the same way that they don't balance the game around standard. It's like it's the exact same base game. These game modes exist as a secondary thought. It's just them toggling a setting, So that's the thing. Ruthless is they're doing new things. They're trying new things. And that's fine, but like I would rather that effort be put elsewhere. I'd rather that balance be put elsewhere. I'd rather just them not even. It also creates like a weird schism of the community because like I thought this not that I thought this race event would happen, but I thought that there'd be something that is like kind of divisive that happens, and I feel like this race event is kind of that divisive thing where it's like this is an event that no one asked for in a way that possibly no one plays or completes, and it's just gonna kind of prove that this is like this probably shouldn't be a focus. Like it shouldn't be a thing that's highlighted.
That's the most disappointing thing for me when it comes to GG and like how someone from outside might look at the company is like they finally got a W like after Arch Nemesis removal, like everyone's happy, right?
Yep.
Sanctum's amazing, and it's like what will they do to mess up the outlook? Like that's what I have at the back of my head. It's like yeah, they will do something because it always happens, and it's just so sad to me. As much as I love GG as a dev because they're great devs in my opinion. But
yeah.
They always just do something.
They enjoy kneecapping themselves. It's like a hobby. Yeah. Yeah.
It sucks. I hate it.
What is the chance that Ruthless is PoE2? Secret code name unlocked, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I would say a lot of the changes that are being made in Path of Exile, if you feel like the game is either being slowed down in pace or there's changes in the dynamic of the game, I would imagine that every change is effectively them trying to bring Path of Exile 1 more in line with what they want PoE2 to be, whatever that is going to be. It will be interesting to see how it feels this league in Crucible. This league, I imagine, is probably going to be one of the biggest population leagues of all time for player base, especially initially, because this game at the moment is coming at a very opportune time that Path of the Crucible is dropping. It's literally the tail end of the last Epic testing and the Diablo 4 beta. This is gonna be like an ARPG waiting room for like a lot of new players, I imagine. So this should be a really interesting influx of new players, and hopefully they use some of that information wisely.
I can give example from my chat. Like I'm usually a small content creator, so small streamer, right? And there's like so many new people coming to my small stream, so it obviously you can scale it to the big boys. Right?
It was a really interesting thing Chris said about how they're so ahead of schedule this league when it came to like they're not really they were like we had I think it was 81 or 82.3 things in their pop-up feed versus like 250 normal. I'm really curious. I really hope this league launches like without a hitch after that statement saying that like hopefully it's a flawless execution. Oh, I guess we should probably ask, do you guys have any plans of playing any other ARPGs that are either coming out or actively out whenever they do come out, like Diablo 4, etc.? Did you guys play the beta test at all? The alpha
No.
test over? No?
I mean, I'm not opposed to like trying it out if I'm bored and find the time, but I'm not really like I might as well do it next year. I don't really care when. I'm not excited for it.
For sure. Leggy?
I was really like down on D4 when I tried it in the second beta.
Yep.
And I definitely gonna try it this time around. I just had fun playing the game. So
Yep. Same.
even though Blizzard is garbage, etc., whatever, I want to play the game.
Just to clarify for those who didn't play the Diablo 4 beta or did play it, it's the equivalent of playing Path of Exile Acts 1 and 2. So as far as like the scope and content of the game, it's like as if you're judging Path off of completing Act 2. So it's like a very minimal concept. And
I think we had a decent amount of information to like scope the Diablo, that it's not what Path of Exile, like customization, deep end.
No, it's good.
Character creation is. But it's fine. I had a lot of fun with how the character played, how the game felt.
Looks good.
How it looked, right?
Tell you
and what kind of content we could expect, right?
Going from looking at Diablo 4 and playing because there was two different settings for high def and like normal def, or the high resolution. Sorry, it actually is crazy how kind of shit Path looks if you haven't looked at other ARPGs in a while, because it would make sense because the game's 10 years old. It's like the same 10-year-old assets for the most part. But I looked back at Path 2 footage and it does look substantially better. So I'm curious. That like how jargon's going to be going from playing Path 1 to Path 2, and you're like, holy shit, my pants have details, like I could see grass, like all these things that we're going to gain. Maybe you have to buy some new graphics cards for all the people. Should be interesting. Easy. You check out any new games, anything you're playing before League starts?
Nope. Just Path. I feel like whenever we get like patch notes, it's almost like a new league, right? Like so.
Oh, for sure.
Again, yeah. I'm just like I said right now, just tirelessly farming breach, just to have bazillion breach stones and blessings and stuff like that, right? So it puts a little like fire knowing that it's going to change and they're not going to be as accessible in the next few days. So then I just, like I said, just kind of like lights a fire to set myself up for
under
something.
your butt, little butt fire. Final question I'm going to ask you all. It's the most important question of anything in these past 3 hours. We've been over 3 hours now, which I feel like is fine. What do you plan on eating on launch day?
Ooh.
I know.
I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, that's
what's
a Wednesday or Thursday problem.
Oh no.
I got like Monday and Tuesday problems.
What you gotta plan in advance. This is like this is big time.
Grocery store trips like Thursday before League launch, like not.
Well, that's already pretty. So you're gonna make your own food. You're not gonna order food.
I might.
See
so
now
like
what's happening here? This is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Sometimes like I'll get like some like pre-made stuff, or sometimes I just like make sandwiches.
Do you stock up? Do you get like six meals in a row so you can just not for the weekend?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
You had specific drinks? You got any drink enjoyer?
Water, coffee, and Diet Mountain Dew.
Diet Mountain Dew. Just no sperm left in your body. All dead.
Nope.
Every single swimmer's gone. Understood. Leggy, how about yourself? Food, drinks, preparations, anything?
I have my like small ritual every week. So I like making food for the week. So I usually just do rice and chicken with like veggies and some like beans and just.
Do you have
water?
Do you have a GoFundMe set up? So this sounds extra depressing with your rations, your war rations you're making for yourself.
I mean, I just like it. Like I'm a person that could eat one thing for a week and don't care, right? Because I like it. So but for me, it's just great. So
there you go.
I'm gonna eat healthy, not care about cooking for a week.
Fair enough.
Last.
Manny, what are you eating? What are you drinking?
Well, I don't really know what I'm gonna make, but the plan is to like spend Friday making food for Saturday, and then after that, I'm actually gonna like spend half an hour or an hour like making some proper food every day. It's like the only break really. So
it's a good point. You're gonna utilize the food break preparation time so your feeble knees don't collapse under the weight of your MF girth. You know, you gotta stretch your legs,
For sure.
take a pee.
And yeah, lots of coffee.
You gonna break out the piss bottle, the shit bucket?
Well, I don't know about you, but my toilet is not that far away.
Okay.
I'll make it there in time.
Yeah,
I wasn't
it's
sure.
the
Maybe
bucket,
you're gonna
right? It's,
just-
it's always under the desk, right?
Well, so I used to use the shit bucket, right? Obviously, like everyone else here, I have the pee bottle. I just duct tape that to myself, and then I don't have to even use my hands. The shit bucket's obvious, but I've actually advanced now. I bought some super glue. You guys can try this at home if you want. If you just glue yourself shut, then the food doesn't leave you. And it honestly, that's been working like a charm. So shit bucket, piss bottle, been great. The glue's been good. I stapled my eyelids open. That way I don't have to even blink. I've got a little drip feed. You know, like those hamster bottles that they drink from? I got one of those hooked up to my ceiling. And then I'm thinking I'm gonna
That
probably
sounds pretty useful, actually.
I'm gonna probably just order
How it-
Chinese. That's my plan.
How is this man
Yeah,
gonna get married? Like, I don't know, man.
I know. November. I'm getting married. I'm thinking she's just gonna flee in the aisle when she realizes that I'm wearing short shorts. You know, that'll be it. That'll be the big KO for me. On that note, that's it. We're done. Everyone go. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. We will possibly reconvene like maybe a week or two after a league launch, I guess, and we'll see. Maybe give some whatever. See if we're all still alive.
Sure. Yeah.
Chit chat. Just to clarify, I don't think IronVsWild's playing the season again. I think he's still taking a break, focusing on life, school, and work. Good for him. He's a better man than we are. All right. If you want to watch the podcast, it'll be up eventually. These things take forever just to render because it's like 3 hours of footage. And you could catch Manni live on League Launch, Legi live on League Launch. Easy, can't catch him. He's too slippery. He's hiding in the alleyways. And I'll be live as well. I do have my costume ready to wear.
What are you
You
wearing?
know, I can't tell. It's a surprise. Last league, I was dressed up during Sanctum. I dressed up as a French maid. It was
I thought
very.
it was right to the league, and it's gonna be a huge naked man.
I could do that. I will say I don't want to give it spoilers, but it is very much a huge naked man based. You'll see. There is some skin showing in this
I see.
upcoming one.
Ooh.
No spoilers though.
Gonna dress as Eminem.
I am.
Just gonna wrap it up.
I should do that. 8 Mile cosplay.